Good luck.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of TCH Live tonight. The final table of this, the even bigger one, coming at you live from Dallas, Texas Card House, the Dallas edition. We've got 9 players here that have made it through an extremely large field once again for this, the final table of the even bigger one. Hand number 1 already underway. I am RJ Dupree. This is Texas Card House Dallas. Here's a look at even bigger one payouts right now. We've got $294,690 in the prize pool. This was a $300 buy-in, 1,254 entries. We are down to the final 9, and those final 9 are these players right here. Christopher Beavers, Ryan Page, Thomas Neville, Shawayz Chowan, Bruce Wynn, Carol Wallace, Mikhail Comro, Chewy, and Mr. Lynch. So those are our final 9 players. Once again, those payouts here. 50,000 up top players are already guaranteed 5,000. And joining me right now in the booth, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Danny Marks.
Thanks, RJ. It's great to be back here. Love seeing some high-stakes poker here, playing for a big purse for very small buy-ins. So let's see what these guys got.
Right? Yeah, these monster payouts here. Only a $300 buy-in. And this tournament, fantastic. One of the best tournaments you will find. The greatest tournament in Texas. You find it here once a month at TCH Dallas.
Yeah, it's hard to find a tournament where you can turn a small $300 buy-in to a giant 50K bankroll. And to be able to do that month in, month out here. This is probably one of the only places in the whole country. Texas Card House, great place to play.
And here we are with Mr. Sardine in the low jack pocket sixes, Mr. Master in the big blind with queens.
Couple pairs right off the bat here. You'll definitely notice as now that we're at the final table and the average stacks are a little bit lower, some of these smaller pairs become a little dicier in the middle stack region. So they're nice when you're smaller and you can just jam it all in, but it's hard to realize your equity if you don't flop a set. So he does get out of the way with the sixes there. Pretty good fold.
And it looks like our chat is already very busy as we're over 100 viewers already now.
All right.
Throughout YouTube and TCH land.
Don't forget to hit that like button, everybody. Adam, stay on them.
Yes, Adam, stay on them. We need those likes. We need those subscribes. They definitely help the algorithms keep these things popping up. We've got some fans here for Fung already. Some fans for Mr. Master, Carol. A lot of shout-outs in the chat already.
Yeah, let us know where you're all watching from. We like to see your locations. You guys in Texas are all over the place.
So not a whole lot here early in these hands. We see some raises and 3-bets taking it down.
Yeah, generally you'll notice a lot of players start off slow. They like to play tight and get a feel for the table, get a feel for their position and how other people are going to react. Also, some of the smaller and medium stacks are a little more incentivized to play a little snug, try to ladder up. There's big pay prizes just for folding, so you're incentivized to play pretty tight.
Let's go. Carol Fung is a destroyer. Let's go Ryan taking this.
Yeah, I see a lot of familiar faces here at this table, a lot of repeat final table appearances. We've definitely got some of our local regular crushers here. I love seeing Carol at the final table. We need some female representation. More and more crushers from the female variety over the years. You love to see it.
Yeah, the ladies are starting to make these final tables on regular occasion now. Kendra Talley in the chat. I see you up there. What's up, Oklahoma? So Ryan, a regular here on some of these final tables. We've seen him a couple of times. One of the chat favorites as well.
Yeah, Ryan is definitely a weekend warrior. He plays quite a bit of poker, both cash and tournaments. Definitely knows what he's doing. So you'll definitely see some high-level play here. Taking a look at the stacks, generally when you are approaching these big final tables, you really want to get a good feel for how many big blinds all of the players have. And it looks like the chip leader is just over 60 bigs, and most of the small stacks are just around 20 bigs. So it's really anybody's game. If you think about it, if a short stack doubles up through the chip leader, they're both going to be tied towards the top at 40 bigs apiece. So the big stack can't apply as much pressure as he would normally be able to, but the middle stacks are still incentivized to kind of stay out of the way.
Yeah, Jack, what's wrong with Ferragamo loafers and white high socks? I'm doing it too. Mr. Master here picks up another big pair, and this time we've got company. He's going to 3-bet at 660,000 with his pocket kings.
Really tough spot here for Bruce with jacks. He is one of the bigger stacks off of 40 big blinds. And Mr. Master is pretty short, so he might just be able to get it in, but it definitely shrinks up facing a 3-bet. So curious to see how he responds here. He's also going to have a better feel for how Mr. Master has been playing leading up to this. But off of 20 bigs effective to start, he might just want to get it in there.
So it looks like he just calls the 660 with his jacks.
Yeah, generally, I recommend against cold calling 3-bets. You're not closing the action, and the original raiser is uncapped, so they can always squeeze again behind you, and then you're just going to have to fold out all of your equity that you put into the pot. And a hand like jacks doesn't flop super well, so you kind of want to realize your equity by either putting in the 4-bet or just getting out of the way right away. But he does decide to flat, and now you can see a little bit of a precarious position here as both of them are out-flopped.
That flat might have brought in Aggie a little bit there, and now the ace comes right on out.
Yeah, and so now Aggie's going to be able to go ahead and take it down. Nick asked if I'm going to WPT Choctaw this weekend. The main event starts on Friday, and I will be going up there Friday for the $3,800 main event. Very excited for that. I wanted to go down to Houston to play the tournament this past weekend, but I'm going to have to wait for the main event, and hopefully we can get a nice little showing down there.
There we go. So yes, main event Choctaw?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Never want to miss a Choctaw main event. That's my run good location. Had a lot of deep runs in the World Series of Poker down there, but never been able to get a good run in a WPT. So hopefully this is the one. Been studying a lot, working on my game, getting excited for poker again, and looking forward to this weekend.
Mr. Master again with a premium. This time it's ace king.
Yeah, it's also easy to get frustrated, or maybe people will read him as frustrated for, having had to just fold the kings there. But, wakes up with a premium right back to back. So hopefully he can get some of his chips back.
Sardine eyeballing things here, wanting to defend with the suited ace from his big blind.
DFS Brett is also going down for the main. Hopefully, good luck down there. Hopefully I'll see you, but not until the final table. Yeah, a lot of top pros were in town in Houston. They had a PGT event down there for a similar buy-in level. I imagine a lot of them are going to be going up to Durant, so it should be a very high-level field.
And the PGT was just a week after the Poker Atlas main down there as well, so there's been plenty of big tournaments around here to jump into.
Yep, and that final table is also going on right now.
You need a facelift for it. Look good as it is.
And Mr. Master is outflopped once again. I do like c-betting on this board with the ace-king on the queen-4 deuce. Your opponents are going to miss a lot, and we can actually get value from worse. But with this run out, it's going to get a little bit dicey here.
Aye. Sardine's going to river the nuts. Big flush.
See what sizing he chooses to go here. When Mr. Master shuts down the turn, he's going to have a lot of medium strength showdown hands, so I'd like to see a small bet here. But when you backdoor a nutted hand like that, you definitely want to try to get some value. So he does get a little bit greedy. Probably not going to get paid off here, though.
Yeah, goes for the pot size bet. No avail with the ace king high for Mr. Master.
Yeah, well played, Mr. Master. It's kind of tough and frustrating. You get kings and ace king and lose half your stack right off the bat. But the fact that he only lost about 10 big blinds between the two hands just goes to show how important your tournament survival is. Those last few chips are worth a lot more than the first chips, because as long as you're still alive, you can ladder up for real pay jumps, and these pay jumps get pretty big at the final table. So always value your tournament life. There's a huge risk premium to putting in the last year chips. So,
and let's see, a couple hands before he had kings, he did pick up a few blinds with the 3-bet on queens, where he had no resistance.
Oh yeah, queens too. Oh yeah, that was.
So yeah, he's had a hot lap of the button here.
It's never fun when you get all these premiums and your stack still goes down.
Yeah.
But he didn't do anything wrong. He played them really well. I think each street on both of those hands were really nice. Alex, hyping up Ryan for us. What do we need to know about him? What's his deal?
Yeah, we've already hyped him up once.
Yeah.
Would you need some more?
Yeah, Ryan is a great player. I played cash with him plenty of times. He is in the 5 seat. Loves to do a lot of traveling. Working man as well, but plays a high-level poker game. Expecting big things from him at this final table.
Ace, queen, deuce here. Sardine able to take advantage of the range of that flop. Makes a bet and takes it down.
Yeah, and now that Mr. Master is the clear short stack, a lot of these stacks above, like Natalia, Mikkel, and Carol, they're going to have to be a little extra careful, because with a player so close to busting, they are going to want to try to get that pay jump. So there's a little bit of extra risk premium for them to enter the hand. So an example is you're going to want to defend your big blind against opens a little bit tighter, put yourself in a little bit clearer spots, and kind of avoid your normal chip EV spots that you would take in a cash game or earlier in the tournament.
It's kind of interesting to see where those players are seated in the table. We have Carol in the 6th seat, Mr. Master, I believe, there in the 8th, and then Mikhail right behind him in the 9th. So those players will be battling it out a few times on buttons and blinds as well.
Yeah, and that's another great point. Where you're seated at the table, obviously it's luck of the draw, but compared to the other big stacks and small stacks, it matters a ton. When you're deciding which range to open from throughout the final table, you really want to put an extra emphasis on who's in the big blind, who's on the button. If it's the big stack, you got to be a little more careful when opening into them, because they're going to be able to 3-bet you a little lighter or defend a little lighter and put your stack at risk.
I remember last summer in the Poker Atlas here, Poker Atlas main event here, on day 2, my button was Cord Garcia's big blind.
Yep.
So that was a little tough on me.
The nice thing about that, though, is at least you're going to get position on him in those late position opens of yours, but you'll definitely have to widen up a little bit. Cord is kind of one of those big field experts where he plays a lot of hands very aggressively, so you can't really have any fear. Otherwise, he's going to pick up on that and just run you over. But it's also a good opportunity to maybe pick up some chips if he underestimates your ability to call him down.
Yeah, and I think he finished 2nd in that event, so he was running hot that day for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I met Cord out here during one of those events. Very nice guy. He even offered to puppy sit the dog for me.
There you go.
How's it going, Mitchell? This is RJ with Danny.
Yeah, what's up, Mitchell, RJ Dupree, and Danny Marks.
Mitchell's another one of our tournament regulars here. Has quite a few final tables himself.
Once you get that green, you're good.
Ruxo's asking if the limp call with Jack-8 off is approved under the gun. You don't need a solver to tell you what to do. Just get after it, you know? Is it Ruxo approved? That's what I want to know. As long as you're happy with the play and you're having fun and you can afford it, there's nothing wrong with it.
So here we go. Ryan's in the action now. He's got ace king on the button. He's facing the raise.
Yeah, pretty clear 3-bet here from Ryan. Ryan's also clearly second place in chips here, so he's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on these guys, especially Bruce coming off of a 36 big blind stack. I'd like to see a fold here by Bruce. The ace-10 offsuit is not going to flop very well out of position, and you're just going to be dominated quite a bit. It does make the discipline laydown very well played.
Yeah, I've always said down the stretch, ace-10 can be so tricky. It's almost one of those hands that it may tell you how your tournament's going to go. If you pick up a big pot with ace-10, you should feel like fortunate, and it's going to be your day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if he was a little bit shorter, then he could start to consider going with it. But I think off of his stack size, he's going to want to do a little more conservation. You don't want to try to play a pretty big pot with a hand like that. Let's see if Chuck can get some revenge on the ace-10 here.
There we go. Starting to get all the players to splash around here a bit. Yeah. Holdings are starting to get spread out a little more.
Sardine is another player I see here quite often. Makes a lot of deep runs, plays very solid. And it looks like he is also one of the bigger stacks here, flatting with eights.
Mr. Master again.
Yeah. Clear jam here off of 8 big blinds. Wants to take his time to not give away his hand strength, but really good spot with a flatter in between. And he's probably going to get called here by Sardine. I imagine Chuck will fold and Sardine will call him. So good spot to more than double up.
There it is. The all-in has been made. Chuck stuck in the middle here with ace-10.
Yeah, it's never fun being stuck in the middle for such a small re-raise, but with a player behind you, you really don't want to risk V-pipping any more money into this pot and playing a large pot with such a medium strength hand when you're not going to have position and you're not even closing the action.
And you can see Chuck peeking behind him before he makes that laydown.
Yeah, and pretty standard call there from Sardine after he folds. He should expect to be up against 2 big cards a lot of the time, and also all of the smaller pocket pairs. Mr. Master only had 9 bigs, so it's not like he's going to play hands. It's not like he's going to not have hands worse than king. So it just kind of ran into it there.
So here we go, Mr. Master. He's all in. He is at risk, 905,000 in his stack, looking to more than double up. 2.2 in the middle now. Kings versus eights.
Oh my gosh.
9, 6, 8. Bingo, bango.
Man,
Sardine has landed
Master
a set.
is just running into it. Kings twice, queens,
8.
ace king, and he is the first to bust here.
Oh my goodness, those monster hands. And he is the first to bust.
Great game, Mr. Master. You played great. Just sometimes the cards do not agree with you, but you'll get a nice little consolation prize for your trouble.
A nice consolation prize. Sweet run for Mr. Master. He's going to finish with a prize of $5,040, outlasting 1,244 players.
Yeah, very nice run. It's easy to get down on yourself, but from what I could tell, he played great, and the cards just didn't agree with him.
Yeah, I love watching Mr. Master play. He's got a great game face. He knows his stuff. He'll look forward to seeing him here a few more times in the future.
Yeah, another player I've played with quite a bit. Several of the players here, the 9 seat, the 7 seat. A lot of these guys have been here since TCH opened a few years back. Ooh, Sardine with a very tight. Oh no, that was somebody folded king queen suited there. Oh,
okay, we're back on track.
Graphics were behind.
Throw us a little curveball there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a tight fold.
He's like, I just got the knockout. Let's play. Raise it up with king queen. Now we're back on track. He's making it 200,000 to go.
The real question is, would you have called if I called?
And raises and takes it down. When you're at the final table, those blinds and antes are very large. So winning at pre-flop is a huge victory, no matter how big your stack is. Got to feel good about it.
All right, so we are now down to 8 players.
Yeah, throw it all in.
Guaranteed nearly $6K in their prizes now.
Would have seen the river with him hitting us up.
Still $50K up top to battle it out for today.
Absolutely. And it's definitely anyone's games with these stack sizes. The small stacks being at 20 bigs is still plenty of maneuverability. Nobody has to really force it or get out of line right now. Let's see if any of these big stacks start to go after it and pressure the table a little bit.
Here we go. Speaking of Aggie, Chris, he's going to bump it up with 6-8 suited. He's in the cutoff here. Slash button with the dead button.
Yep, and that's a pretty standard raise here as a chip leader. Can start pressuring those blinds quite a bit. Well played. The other thing you want to consider, we were talking about the amount of big blinds that the players around you have. You want to consider what's going to happen if you double up or double somebody else up. How is your polling position going to be compared to the leaderboard? Because your stack is worth real money. And like I always say, folding is worth real money. So you want to think about how devastating a loss is going to be and how much a win is going to help your chances to win one of those top prizes. You know, if you're going to double up from the short stack and still be the short stack, it's not as valuable as if you're going to double up and become one of the chip leaders and have a real chance at winning the tournament.
So Ryan P here in the 5 seat, he finds 8-9 suited enough to raise it up. He'll take down the blinds and antes.
Oh, he loves him some nails.
I am RJ Dupree. We're here at Texas Card House Dallas. Alongside me is Danny Marks. In the production room, we've got John and Coop keeping things up for you tonight. This is the final table of the even bigger one, $250,000 guarantee. It's a $300 buy-in with a large field. We're now down to 8 players.
50,000 big ones up top. It's hard to get that from a daily tournament. I guess technically a multi-day, but it's like got the daily tournament feel to it. Yeah, RJ, what's your signature catchphrase?
Ike Adler in the chat. What's my signature catchphrase?
I gotta get a catchphrase.
I wonder if he knows. I wonder if he's heard me before.
I'm new to this announcing thing. I gotta learn a catchphrase.
I've got one that I think may be in the running, but I don't know if Ike's heard me before. I don't know if he is trying to catch me here on something. Ike, have you heard? Do you have something in mind for me?
RJ is a professional announcer over here, so I'm sure he's got plenty of phrases. I'm just trying not to ramble too much.
JB3 asking once again who's commentating tonight. I'm RJ Dupree, and this is Danny Marks.
How's it going, JB3?
It's always fun to get asked that, like, all night long as people check in and out on the streams. So we kind of feel like it's annoying, but it's also necessary.
Hey, we're happy to answer any questions as many times as it takes.
Over 340 viewers now as Mikel
the
picks
third
up
time
kings.
we've seen kings today. Very large raise. Goes with the 3x open. Generally, I feel like you're going to be losing a little bit of value by choosing that raise size. Does take it down pre-flop. But if you raise a little bit smaller, it allows you to open up a wider range of hands profitably, where you're not risking as much on the downside. Off of 20 big blinds, I think 2x or just over 2x is probably the size I would choose.
Yeah, I think that was his first hand to get to open tonight, and he comes out strong with that 3x.
Yeah.
Blinds are going up here in hand 17. We're now at 60,000, 120,000.
Yeah, Mikel, though, is another very strong player. Does make a lot of deep runs, so I'm sure he's got a good feel for the table and had reasonings behind his open size. Maybe he thinks his opponents are going to be a little bit too loose in defending.
And he's got a lot of chips behind him. They are not shorties behind him.
Oh, yeah. So the blinds are up, 120K big blind.
Seven, 8, Jack, 2 clubs here. Queen, Jack of Ryan landing the best of it.
Carol and Bruce do decide to go with the limp. Off of these stack sizes, like 20 to 25 big blinds, limping a hand like threes is not my favorite just because you don't really have enough implied odds to go for your set. That being said, he wasn't the first to enter the pot, so there was a little bit more dead money. But I would have liked to see Carol come in for an open with the king-queen hand. Try to put a little bit more pressure on the big blind and give yourself a little bit extra fold equity. If you call, you have to win the hand at showdown. If you raise, you can win the hand either at showdown or by getting your opponent to fold.
So they make it to showdown. Queen Jack still the best of it.
Nice hand, Ryan.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry.
Yeah, a little bit of confusion there, but Carol definitely had king queen, so she ended up with no pair as Ryan landed the jack. He'll take that pot down. And that is the lovely Carol you see in both rooms here, mostly Texas Card House Dallas. Her and her hubby, absolute regulars here. They're here a lot.
Both have plenty of final tables under their belt. Love to see them back. And it seems like there's two groups of stack sizes right now. We've got the short stacks between 15 and 25 bigs, and then there's a bunch of big stacks that have 30 to 45 bigs. So it's really anybody's game. Very fun meta game to see kind of how people maneuver through the final table.
I met everybody else except for you. Probably see 9 of them. Good luck, everybody.
So Miss Carol there with 2.3 million in her stack. She decides to let it go.
And that's a great example of the power of opening. Just taking down the pot pre-flop is worth so much at this point.
What's cracking, Danny, and our jizzle from our friend Eric Van Loozen in the chat.
Ah, what's up, buddy?
My Tuesday
Another
night
one of
partner.
our announcers over here.
Yep, Eric Van Loozen, my 5th favorite commentator. He's my partner on Tuesday nights.
Yeah,
Love
sounds
that
like he
dude.
won $5 the other night, or was it 500?
Fresh off of his 123rd place finish in this event. That's right, he made it.
Congratulations.
He made it to day 2 for about
Oh, very cool.
90 seconds.
All right. Well, hey, it's still in the money.
That's
so.
right. 126 players made it to day 2.
Okay.
So, come on, Eric. You outlasted 3 of them. Give yourself some credit.
Yeah. And over 1,000 people total. So.
Oh, Victoria reminding us that Ralph may not be the hubby.
Oh, the side piece.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We threw them all under the bus.
She's got a hubby, but also a boyfriend or two.
The poker side piece. Those are dangerous.
Yeah. We all need like a poker wife, poker husband.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And one that doesn't play to keep
Yeah.
us out of trouble
Yeah,
sometimes,
there you go.
too. Yeah, nice run, Eric, from Ryan Blacker in the chat. See, Eric, you've got some fans out there.
Yeah. At least one, Well, we're fans too, so
Absolutely.
we've got 3, at least.
Can't wait to see you here Tuesday night, tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So these players, they still have just enough blinds that it's not total danger zone, but they can't do a lot of maneuvering just yet on these shorties. So it's good to have some opening bets here to keep those guys short.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep the pressure on. And the nice thing is, because of the ICM pressure, even that 2x open or just over 2x, it still puts so much pressure on the stacks. Every chip you put into the pot, you have to have a rhyme or reason behind it. So really nice aggressive play so far from most of the players here at this table.
Beautiful. But there's a lot of homelessness now.
RJ, do you prefer tournaments or cash games yourself?
Oh, I've been playing more cash games in recent years than tournaments, but if it came to just straight preference, what would I rather do? I'd probably rather play more tournaments.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun, right?
I enjoy them, yes.
Yeah. So how would you approach, how do you like to approach these final tables when you get there?
Man, I think some of the things we've talked about are things I particularly look for. Is exactly what kind of chip stacks do I have behind me? What kind of chip stacks are in the button and cut off in my blinds? So I want to know, can I defend against a cutoff raise? Can I defend against a button raise? Do I have enough big blinds to do that? And be aware of what their stacks are. If they're short, I kind of play in a way where I want to knock them out. And if they're deep, I don't mind picking on them either, because that's where you can actually, you talked about that, actually gain spots, you know, by doubling up through big stacks.
Yeah, and that's why this game is so beautiful. There's so much nuance to it. You're never going to run into the same spot twice. So we got an interesting hand here.
If short stacks are behind me, I love, you know, picking on them, making sure they do not get free flops.
Very interesting turn card here.
So Bruce floated here with his open-ended. Aggie Chris on the button with Jack 10. He saw a turn with his gut shot and now has turned to 10 and the best of it.
Yeah, a lot of these overcard plus gut shot combos are actually really good to start putting aggression on. It's very hidden when you do hit your hand. And with the overcards alone, you can hit pairs that'll be the best hand. Plus, having position in general, you can take it away. You have lots of opportunities to bluff further down the street.
And Aggie Chris has ripped here on the turn, all in.
Yeah, really tough spot here for Bruce. Is going to go with it.
He's going to roll with it. He's open-ended with top pair.
Yeah, once he has that much money in the pot, it's hard to blame him for putting the rest in there. You know, worst case scenario, if you're behind, you do have some clean outs to the straight. And he does get there.
6 of hearts gets there with a straight. Damn it. So Bruce will pick up a big one here.
Yeah. And that hand kind of played itself post-flop. You know, both players flop pretty strong there with the gut shot and the open-ender, and then both turning top pair.
Not my fault. Brittany hates me.
We've got the lovely Brittany here in the box, one of the best dealers here at TCH. Been around since the beginning. Very fast and accurate dealer.
I think Brittany is my 9th favorite dealer.
9th? Wow.
Yep.
You've got your whole power rankings.
She's in the top 10.
She's definitely a top 10 dealer here. I was going to put her higher, so Brittany, you know I got you. But she used to deal me fire back in the day, so
yeah, there you go.
That's part of it. I'm a little biased.
I think she crushed me back in the day, so yeah, that's why she's hanging around a little lower than expected. Yeah.
Sense. Maybe if she gave you a couple more sets, she would round the top 5.
Oh, yeah.
JB3 says he does not believe in ICM. It's kind of like Santa Claus. It's not real.
Well, today it's going to be real for some of these players as the pay jumps today are going to be very substantial for a $300 buy-in.
And that's actually a really good point that both of you bring up is another thing that you want to consider is what is the life situation of these people at the table? Are they going to care about the money? Do they care about the pay jumps? If you're at a really big tournament, and this is a really big tournament for a lot of people, you know, 50,000 can change a lot of lives. Are you going to be able to push them around a little bit more because that money is very meaningful to them? Or is this just a hobby for them where they're just trying to make the best decision, money regardless? So those types of factors can also change your strategy at a final table as well.
So Mikael picks up another little one. He's chipping up a bit. So now our short stacks here are Carol in the 6th seat, Natalia in the 4th seat.
Yeah. Both of them have a little bit of breathing room, though. They have enough time to wait for a spot. Once you get under like 10, 12 bigs, but even at the final table, that's nothing too scary. But they still have, 15, 16 bigs, so plenty of room to wait until they get a hand. It's a good stack to 3-bet all in because you still generate a lot of fold equity. And when you get those folds, you increase your stack 25, 30%. And then when they do call, obviously, you could still have a strong hand to double up.
Yeah, JB3 cares about first place only. He's in it to win it.
I feel you, JB3. I want that trophy.
I didn't see anything. If I was trying.
See those cards I told you to send?
No, I didn't. No, they just like paint like flash.
Yeah, Eric Van Loosen in the chat brings up an interesting point. They have changed the format here just a bit. They were doing some min caches on day 1 before 8% of the field would advance to day 2. Now, 10% of the field advancing to day 2, where all 10% of those people make the money.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So there's no more min caching on day 1. You advance to day 2, then you're in the money. Makes it a little more.
Yeah, I like I like the 10 to 12% cash personally, and then I like to do 2x your buy-in as the min cash. That way you feel like you at least get a little bit back when you do make the money.
Yeah, especially in these new formats where so many people are re-entering and firing more than one bullet.
Yeah.
But to his point, the structure of this tournament is absolutely fantastic. 40-minute levels on day 2. Blinds take their sweet time going up. You absolutely have enough time as a player to find your line, work your line, and make sure you're getting the most out of this tournament.
Yeah, you can't beat this for $300 anywhere.
So Aggie Chris has found some spots here to put some pressure on folks.
Interesting spot here for Ryan. He could go for the squeeze here, but he is covering both of his opponents. He could also just decide to flat. This hand plays fine. I probably prefer squeezing a little bit and kind of making a stand here at the table and trying to separate myself from the table. I think my opponents might be overfolding as well. But a flat is also just fine. The hand plays really well post-flop. You also keep some of your opponent's dominated range in. So if you just call, your opponents are still going to have hands like Queen Jack, King Jack, but if you raise, they're going to fold those hands and start continuing with their Ace Queens, stuff like that has you dominated. So there are benefits to both.
Which is a little bit about how you mentioned it here, as Aggie Chris able to continue here with a lesser of a hand.
Yeah, he was the pre-flop opener, so he has the only uncapped range right now. He's the only player who can have hands like aces, kings, ace-king, queens. The other players, if they had a hand that strong, would have 3-bet themselves. So he is representing strength here, also being the chip leader. But you're definitely going to have to turn on the pressure. I would have liked to see a larger bet here on the turn if he did want to continue bluffing at it.
So he's betting now $350,000 into $2 million.
Yeah, he's only betting about 15-20% of the pot.
Which will make Bruce think here with his pocket threes.
Yeah, definitely not an easy spot here, but Bruce called pre-flop, so I would and after calling the flop, I'd put him on a lot of hands like 3s through 8s, 3s through 9s, and a lot of those hands are just going to continue here against a 2 big blind turn bet. That's only for 15-20% of the pot. And you can see here Bruce is, he's visibly in a difficult situation right now. So if a player's putting off some tells like that, I would size up very large on the river and try to make their life miserable. You always want to be careful about what you're giving away while you're still thinking. Victor, I don't know what you're talking about. Carol's got the best vibes.
So here he does. He does think about it, and then he makes the call.
Yeah, for that price, you definitely cannot fold. And now he can bet for value. So I would actually, I'd bet a little bit smaller now that you made your hand.
So he bet 250 there.
Yeah, but I definitely want him to take his time a little bit and think about his sizings a little bit more and try to get max value.
Pardon me, it looks like he bet 850 there. So,
nice hand, Chris. That just goes to show you the power of aggression. He had multiple ways to win. If he missed the 10 there, he could have gone even larger and tried to bluff it, but making his hand, like I said, his opponent looks like he's got a lot of pocket pairs, medium one pair hands, so he went for a nice value size there and got the max against pocket threes.
So there you go, binking that 10 on the river, a naughty river there against Chuck, picking up a fat pot there, 4 million. Pardon me, that was Bruce. And Bruce going to open it up again here in the next hand, gets right back to it with the ace-10 of spades.
Yeah, this time he's got the suited variety. Very strong hand.
What is it?
I didn't think you were going to call the second one. Sorry, I didn't know you were in hand. My bad.
Carol defending her big blind here with the king 6 off. You know, she's got an extra good price. You can defend much wider.
And finds a king high flop.
Yeah, she does decide to lead right out into the pre-flop razor. I think on a board like King 8 Deuce, your opponent's going to have the range advantage and is going to c-bet almost every time. So whenever you flop very strong like that off such a short stack, I prefer to check to the pre-flop razor, and then you can decide to maybe check raise all in or get the money in. But it allowed Bruce off the hook, and he was able to save a little bit of money by having her just lead out into him.
That's what I was going to say. From her spot, do you prefer a check raise or maybe a check and go with a lead out on the turn?
So I think specifically with a 6 as a kicker, I would probably, and you're not really worried about protecting your hand because there's only one overcard to the board. I would choose to try to continue with a check call and see if I can get my opponent to bluff off all of his worst hands. And then if he checks back the turn, I'm going to be jamming those rivers. But when she's so short, she's going to have plenty of time to get the money in, so she doesn't have to rush it. A lot of people think they need to get it in right away, but the slower you play your hand in that spot, the wider range both players are going to represent, and so you're going to be able to get more value from the weaker portions of your opponent's range.
Got a fun hand setting up here is Chuck. In the 2 seat, he's playing the low jack. He opens it up with queens, and he is 3-bet by Sardine's suited ace deuce.
Yeah, I like the thought here from Sardine. It just looks like this is some poor timing as Chuck woke up with a monster. Let's see how he responds. I generally prefer at this stack step responding with a call here from Chuck. That goes kind of what I was saying before by keeping your opponent's range a little bit wider. I think if you raise, it's going to give your opponent an easy decision. They're going to continue with everything better, fold everything worse. This is a strong hand that does not need a lot of protection, where you can keep your opponent's bluffing range wide and get a lot of future value on the street. But a lot of players do prefer just to get it in now and not have to worry about making tough decisions down the line. Looks like he does decide to go with the call here. It's hard to tell.
You can't put checks down on
You have to either say an amount or once you match it, you're only allowed to.
Did he put in the raise? What are the?
So it looks
oh,
like
he did 4-bet. He clicks it back.
So it looks like he announced a raise
Gotcha.
and then put in a strange amount where he was forced to min raise.
Gotcha. If you are actually going to put in the 4-bet, I think a click back makes quite a bit of sense.
And hello. Ace Queen 10. He flops middle set here. All spades on the flop.
But when you match the previous raise,
Does decide to just get it in there.
it's a
And I think this is going to give Sardine an easy decision here to get out of the way. I think he's a little worried about the spades, and there's already a lot of money in there. But I think there's a lot of missed value to be had by going a little bit smaller and giving your opponent a tougher decision. You generally want to do what you call you call it indifference. If you can make your opponent indifferent to continuing folding, raising, you're giving them their hardest possible decision and allows them to make the most mistakes possible. And so there's a lot of benefits to thinking about your size a little bit more.
And it's fun to hear you speak of that flop in particular, as queens is a big hand. It's flop to set, which is a big hand. But so many people out there in the streets would be scared of that spade flop and not get value out of their big hand.
Exactly. So you know, you're going to still be way ahead of their single spade hands, and honestly, they're going to continue with a lot of those anyway. So might as well get max value from them. And if they outdraw you, they outdraw you. But you're a huge favorite to get a big stack. That being said, he did win a very nice pot, and it puts him in a really good position here to continue the aggression moving forward. So, these are very small, nitpicky things, but really well played by both players. And yeah, nice hand, Chuck.
Yeah, it gives us fun things to
that
talk
guy.
about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he did scoop up about 7 million in that pot, so he's chipped up a bit here.
Check.
And we're going to see a double paired board here.
King high.
Me too. Chop it up.
Chop, chop.
You have a club?
I did have one.
That'd have been bad.
So yeah, the club could have bet possibly the turn, but
Yeah, you can see both of the big stacks giving each other a little bit of respect. Not trying to risk too much of their stack against each other when there's a lot of short stacks to pick on.
Oh, I can imagine all the internet trolls. All this guy does is get lucky.
What it's all about.
Yeah, I'll take it. No complaints.
Might want to protect your cards. Sir. Sitting next to Much. He's a great dude. Would hate to see
3 and a
him.
quarter. Like my least favorite good hand.
You hear what I'm saying?
Ace 10 has been the hand tonight. See it a lot.
Cards just sitting right
yeah,
next to Much.
Chris mentions how it is his least favorite good hand. That's kind of what I was referring to earlier. It's a good, great hand, but man, it's tough to get it to run good sometimes.
But I'm looking at the Much. But make sure
Definitely
you
not
guys
the one I
get
want to
me
punt off.
Danger zone, definitely the catchphrase of the chat tonight.
Yeah, it looks like Natalia's starting to get into that danger zone a little bit, but can still be patient. Just about 13 bigs. Gonna have to start getting the money in there soon. Sardine right back at it. This is a player who is going to continue playing solid even after that setback with the ace deuce. Try to play aggressively, try to take it down, but right back in there playing solid.
Yeah, and really the way that was min raised, 3-bet, min clicked.
Yep.
His amount of casualty on that pot wasn't
Can you show your least favorite?
entirely significant.
Yeah, it was ace 10.
Probably 7 or 8 blinds there.
Just good enough to lose a bunch of chips with is all that is.
Tough flop for him here. Big blind defends with the ace 9 suited. I like this defense here. Instead of 3-betting against an under the gun open, he's going to have a bit tighter of a range, so you don't want to get too crazy with it. Keep your opponent's dominated hands in and just play the hand for its straight value.
And if you haven't noticed yet, those red chips there are 100,000 each. So Chuck will lead out here with 4 of those. That's a bet of 400,000. You see those blue chips on top? Those are 25,000.
Yeah, that's about 2/3 pot. On this board texture, our opponents are going to have a lot of strong draws. I do actually like this sizing. I think Sardine would have c-bet with his stronger ace-x hand, so I would expect to be in the lead here a lot. And we want to get value from all of his single spade holdings. So I actually really like that sizing there on the turn.
So a spade hits the river. 4 spades now on board.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 4 spade does arrive. So let's see if Chuck has the discipline here to just give it up, check fold. And curious to see if Sardine goes for value here. It's a very close spot. I would expect my opponent to continue with all of his better spades. So I'd like to see a small value bet here. Try to get value from some of the single pair and medium spade holdings. Chuck did defend the big blind, so he is going to have some weaker spade X holdings in his hand. Does go for a small value bet. I really like the sizing. Well played by both players.
There you
Yeah,
go.
DFS spread, I agree. Sardine is very solid. I've been playing with him for years. Loves to play these small, medium buy-in tournaments. has a lot of deep runs, and plays straightforward and solid. Definitely will give himself a chance to win this tournament.
So we're in hand 32 here of the final table. The even bigger one here, Texas Card House Dallas.
Yeah, a lot of really solid maneuvering so far. I know last month we saw a lot more limping. Some of these players have a little bit more experience and are really going after it tonight, and you just love to see it.
Yeah, a lot more opens, being able to take down pots like that.
Yep.
We're not seeing a ton of flops. The opens and the 3-bets, obviously, it helps when you're winning pots and not having to go to flops. So a lot of that going on right now.
Yeah, and that actually brings up another great point. Whenever ICM is in consideration, generally, especially at the final table, you want to be flatting a lot less often. When you enter the pot, you're a lot more incentivized to just try to take it down pre and either realize all of your equity right away. But when you start entering pots for a call, you start to risk your stack. And it can just get a lot more dangerous when there's real money pay jumps just by folding.
Mr. Adam here bringing up a nice point in the chat. Only 35 likes. We've got nearly 400 viewers right now and 35 likes.
Yeah, Adam, get after him.
Aggie Chris raising it up with Suda Canooders. He's got 6-7 of spades, but Bruce in the cutoff with kings.
This is our 4th or 5th king showing of the night. They have not been running very good. Let's see if Bruce can get them to work for him.
Smash that like button for these kings that just keep coming out. Bruce's 3-bet to 635,000.
I really like his small 3-bet sizing here off of his stack size. His opponent's going to have to continue pretty wide, and that just shows you with his 7-6 call. I think 7-6 on against this stack size is probably just a fold because you don't really have the implied odds to draw to your hand. And so now he's probably going to get in trouble with this flop. He's probably going to have to just go with it because now he's ahead of hands like ace-king, ace-queen. And he's put himself in a tough spot here.
Yeah, these two have battled it out before. Earlier, Bruce had a lesser pair and open-ended. Now Chris landing bottom pair and a gut shot.
See if he can make a disciplined fold here. Problem is, he's just got such good odds. You know, he was also showing a little bit of physical tells there. You remember, you want to be really careful.
Oh, 5 of spades. Big card for Chris.
Yeah, you must have a pair.
It looks like Chris actually went all in on that 5 of spades turn and got snap called by Bruce.
Yeah.
All right, well, good time to hit a good
Just
program.
trying to force his equity in there.
Like you said, found some trouble in the 6, found some trouble here on the turn with the 5 of spades. He's going to need one of his 14 outs.
Yeah, at this point he couldn't fold, but probably just didn't need to be in that situation. But does get lucky, and kings get cracked again.
Bingo.
Good game, Bruce. I really like the way you played that king's hand. Just very unlucky.
That's the second time a pair in a straight draw has gotten nasty and binked it. The first one, Bruce, that was in his favor, and this time knocking out Bruce.
Yeah, and that pot's going to put Chris way up in the lead now. He'll be able to put a lot of pressure on there.
So those kings crack gives Bruce an 8th place finish. He goes home with a prize of $6,750. We have 7 players remaining, guaranteed $8,500. Sweet run for Bruce. Thanks for coming out. Great game, buddy.
Yeah, great game, Bruce. He had a lot of very difficult spots tonight. Sometimes it can feel like the world's against you when you just get those over and over again. So being able to stay mentally strong throughout the final table is a very valuable skill. And he did a good job playing those kings to perfection. And you can just see, like, you know, Carol was one of the short stacks starting here. And just by playing tight and conservative, she's already made 2 pay jumps. And, you know, that's a lot of money that in between 9th and 7th place. So really love to see her moving up the leaderboard here.
Yeah, and I was kind of going to compliment Mikkel. Is very similar situation. He's picked up 2 pots, probably up on his chip count from when the table first started, but he's been a little picky and able to move up 2 pace putt.
That's why you want to play very tight.
Yeah, rough day for Kings, absolutely. They've been out a lot, and they are not winning the pot so far. So Chuck picks down another one with a little meat on it. There was $2 million in that pot.
Yeah, and you can see the leaderboard is starting to spread out a little bit. People are solid in their pole positions, and let's see if Chris tries to put a lot of pressure on those medium stacks. With the small stacks so close to busting, people like Carol, Ryan, they got to be a lot more careful when they enter the pot.
So Natalia now down to 1.3 million, but he's in the 4 seat, so he just went through the blinds. He's got the button now, so he'll have a few hands here.
Yeah, and he has been card dead all stream so far. He hasn't had a single hand to play. So sometimes you're just handcuffed by the deck.
So Ryan picks up ace king here in the small blind, facing the raise from Chuck.
I wish they put like some oscillating fans up in these corners or something.
Yeah, and 2 of the medium stacks, but both have plenty of big blinds, so a lot of maneuverability here. I would choose a larger 3-bet size against stack size like Chuck's. He does go for that larger size. I like it. Going to give Chuck a really difficult decision here on whether or not to continue. He does have position, but it's going to be hard to realize his equity with a pair like 5s. And you're not deep enough to go set mining. So I prefer just getting out of the way. Does make a good fold. Well played by both players.
Yeah, there you go. Big 3-bet there. More than 3x of the raise that Chuck put out there. So that's enough to take it down.
Yeah, when you're out of position, you generally want to put a little extra meat on the bones. It nullifies your opponent's positional advantage if you can lower the stack to pot ratio. The deeper you are, the more advantage the in-position player has. And so that's why you'll see a lot of out-of-position players put a little extra out there to nullify that advantage just a little bit. And there we go. Natalia finally picks up a hand. Pretty standard jam here for just under 11 big blinds, and does take down the pot.
11 big blinds. He ships it with ace jack, takes it down. No resistance here, so he'll pick up a couple blinds. And it feels good for him to have something to stack here a little bit, right? Get
Absolutely.
that first
You
one.
got to have some chips to shuffle. Some of those 5Ks, some of those anti-chips.
Get that first one in, and anything can happen from here.
Absolutely. Momentum can be a real thing at these tables. The poker is so mental that if you can start getting in your opponent's heads, they start thinking you're running good.
There we see a great smile, just a little chips to stack. He's smiling and moving around a little bit now.
Exactly.
The shell of one at least. The shell of one at least.
Ryan here in the cutoff with ace 10.
Chris seems a little frustrated, although you should probably be pretty grateful. You just won a huge chip lead pot. It's easy to think about your luck in the moment, but you got to be really grateful. A lot of people complain about bad beats, but I mean, everybody had to run really well to get to this final table. So all you can do is play your best, try to make the best decision you can each time the action's on you, and let the cards fall where they may. Is that one of your, would you consider that a strength of yours, the mental game portion? I think that's probably one of the more common weaknesses of the average recreational or even professional player. Being able to compartmentalize, running good or running bad. I think that's one of my stronger components. But even myself can get. I am human. I can get frustrated.
Right. And to be honest with you, I feel like I've been slipping a little bit on that in my cash games lately. Lately, I've been a little bit cranky here and there. And it's funny how sometimes it'll happen, And, back in the day, I was on Twitter or whatever, and I used to chit-chat with poker people all across Twitter or whatever. And I got in this huge debate with folks about slow rolling, and I was like, hey, slow roll doesn't even exist. If you don't want slow rolling to exist, you can train your mind to where slow rolling doesn't exist.
Doesn't matter.
Why create problems?
If you're going to let it affect you, that's your own.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Your own
and that was my point. I was like, this game has enough problems and stress actually going through your mind, that you don't need to make up fictional ones.
Yep.
If you want to eliminate a problem and not worry about it, boom, do it.
Yeah, and that's a great example of just training yourself to, be happy and not worry about the things you can't control. So I think we'd all be better off working on our mental game and our general happiness at the table. Very interesting flop here. Ryan could definitely get in a little bit of trouble here. Mikkel's very short. I don't think he'll be able to get away on this board.
Mikkel has landed top 2 on the button with king 9.
Yeah. And on this connected of a board with his stack size, he might just want to get it in there. But he is in position, so he'll have the chance to... Oh, wait. Did we misread the board? There's no way he folded top 2 pair, so I'm not sure what happened there.
Well, maybe he folded pre-flop.
It's possible that the...
Yeah, I'm thinking Mikkel folded pre-flop, and then our graphics were still up there as if he saw the flop.
How about you all in the chat? Would you say that you guys are very tilt-prone, or are you mentally solid at the table? What are some of your weaknesses and strengths at the poker table? Love to hear you guys from the chat.
My own fault for not raising pre-flop. It's my own fault for not re-raising pre-flop.
I think my chat is not up to date. Let's go, Chewy.
Well, yeah, and JB3 talks about, you don't have to forget the last hand. Game flow is also very important. You want to know what's been happening recently so you can understand everybody else's mindset and the situation, but not letting the negative affect your game is kind of more the important aspect of that.
Yeah, a lot of that you perceive as negativity can actually be great stuff to learn from, great information to learn from. So you want to be able to keep your mind sharp enough that you take that negativity and learn from it when you should, as opposed to just getting tilted and not learning a darn thing,
Yeah, and Chris is getting after it right now. I do feel like he's showing a little bit of emotion here at the table, and comes in with a 3-bet with 5s. As the chip leader, you can really start opening it up. Maybe he'll be able to run over this table, so let's see if he can get after it.
And Chris is a fun, honoring guy too, so he'll put a little bit of showmanship into some of that as well.
Oh yeah, I love playing with Chris. He's another one I've been playing since since the early days of TCH. Always makes a lot of deep runs, never complains. Love to see him play. And yeah, Mitchell was saying that he thinks he handles it pretty well. I was actually going to say the same. I agree, Mitchell. You're always a pleasure at the table. I've never seen you get flustered. You always handle yourself with class. And, you're one of my favorite people to play with around here. So I really appreciate that. I try to handle myself well at the table, too, and make sure everybody's having a good time.
So here we go, Aggie Chris. He's got a real one this time. He makes it 375 to go. He's raising from the low jack with ace-king.
And this has got to be a dream for Natalia. Chris has played 4 hands in a row. Ace-king is going to be way ahead of his average hand there. Just so happens he runs into it where they have the same hand. Gaston likes to flip the table over if he gets sucked out on. I don't blame that either. That's always, you can go either way.
One way to get over it. Yeah.
You can be solid, or you can just go to the tilt room and start beating on stuff.
Okay, it's over.
Yeah, I love the old internet days where you'd break mouse, up against the wall. And,
a lot of throw your computer off the second story building.
Yep, exactly.
Most of you guys probably haven't been playing long enough to remember this show, but maybe like 15 years ago, there was a show called 2 Months, 2 Million, and it followed some young poker crushers during the WSOP on they rented a house together and played a bunch of online poker, and they had something called the Tilt Room, where they had all these things like watermelons and sledgehammers where they can just, punching bags, where they can just let out their tilt and destroy stuff.
We should rent an apartment just for that.
Yeah, so sometimes it's soothing to just be able to take out your anger. And you don't want to bury the emotion. You definitely want to recognize it, but then how you handle it and move forward is the real test of character.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. I think sometimes that might be my own problem. Is sometimes I can bury emotion a little too much.
And then it'll all pop out at
Yeah.
once. Yeah.
So let's see here. Natalia in the 4th seat, he picks up that chop pot a minute ago. He's now up over 1.5 million. So still low. As a matter of fact, the blinds have gone
are
up.
up.
So he's going to be at in the
10
danger
bigs.
zone of about 10x.
Yep. Yeah. Still enough though where a double is going to put him in solid position. So hopefully he can pick up another big hands. Yep. Bill Burford saw it. 2 months, 2 million. Yeah. Some of the old school young guys that were top players at the time, like Danny Stern, Ansky. I love shows like that. I wish they would bring on something like that for the modern day.
There was a fun hand to bring out Mikhail under the gun with pocket 4s. You can see him looking around, thinking about it. That small pocket pair out of position. Eventually, he just elects to fold it and go on to the next one.
Yeah, that's a very close spot. I do think that's a good discipline laydown. I think if he was a little bit shorter, he'd probably want to go with it. But I also wouldn't blame him for going
And look at
with
this
it.
trouble that he's going to avoid here as Aggie Chris has big blind pocket 10s.
Yeah, Chris has kind of had a string of hands here. And I imagine the table is going to start thinking that he's getting out of line. But really, he's just playing solid poker with strong hands.
Good time for a good run right here.
Yeah, and there's not much Ryan can do here with the Queen 5 suited.
You can't let him be stealing from us, Carol.
Michael H., what books or coaches do you recommend for poker tournament learning?
Poker's all about teamwork.
Tournament learning. Do you have a favorite tournament?
We're all after each other.
So it's hard for me. I've been playing poker for almost 20 years now, and so it's been such a journey of different learning styles throughout the years. When I first started, the books and online forums were the best places to learn. But a lot of that's out of date at this point, and so now I prefer training videos and individual coaching, talking with friends, and working with solvers. But let's take a break on that. We got 2 big hands that are about to clash.
Under the gun,
hands.
queens and ace king for Sardine right behind him.
Yeah, and +1, 2. Does decide to go with the flat against the under the gun open. Thinks that Chuck is going to have a real hand here. There also might be a squeeze behind. It's not a terrible play. There's a lot to risk by playing a big pot against an under the gun player when both of them have such large stacks. So it's going to try to play a little bit of deception, keep his opponent's ace queen, ace jack, king queen type hands in there. And the 3-4-5 flop is an interesting one as the formation of under the gun versus +1. I actually kind of like his flop check here. Don't need a ton of protection, and you can start trapping your opponent into bluffing some no equity hands. Although at the same time, I would expect Sardine to have a lot of middling pair type hands that you might be losing a little bit of value on by not betting. But he's also going to have a lot of ace-x hands, which have straight draws, and he doesn't have a spade in his hand, so he does need a little bit more protection against the spade run out.
So there you go. If you're in the chat, by the way, Flo Hold'em has mentioned some of their favorites when it comes to tournament strategies.
Oh, yep. Yeah, and those are a lot of the more common options. My favorite course that I took was on Run It Once. I took it a couple years ago it's called Pads on Pads. Patrick Leonard is somebody I learned a lot from. Really explains his thought process very well. And then working with PO GTO Wizard and just trying to understand and build heuristics for why we do what we do in this game. And have a really strong thought process. But that's the beautiful thing about poker. You know, they say it takes a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. And we're all going to be learning until we quit, which is going to be never. So there's always something to learn from this game. And I think that's the key, actually. As long as you love the game and put in effort to learning, it doesn't really matter that much where you're getting that information from. As long as you're putting in work, you're going to get better.
I've always kind of felt that way too. I've mentioned it before to people that I think there are several different strategies that could work. The important part is staying with that strategy, right? I mean, you have to be disciplined enough in yourself to find a strategy that works and stay with it. Like, if you're just spraying off stuff and goofing around and having a good time and can't figure out why you win, but you've read a book, well, then it's not going to work, right?
And there's nothing wrong with that either. If you want, if all you're interested in is playing for fun every now and then, you don't have to study the game to enjoy it and to win. That's another beautiful thing about poker. Anybody can win on any given day. But yeah, there's so many free, great resources on YouTube as well. So there's just endless places to get information from. But personally, I would just try to find, some poker friends and talk some hands over with them and just try to, improve your thought process and have fun with it.
That's what I do here. I get to have fun with you. You're my poker friend. We talk about hands.
Yeah. I'm just making it all up. I'm trying to give him bad information, so he punts it to you guys.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, ever who wrote that book about pot odds, they're rich.
And we've got almost 450 y'all in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to hit that like button while you're here if you're enjoying some of this free poker wisdom. And Bill says, Mikel is a very good player, regularly makes deep runs in big tournaments. I see him at most of the stops in the area and is usually there at the end. So
yeah,
I completely agree.
I think I got to spend a lot of time playing with Mikel in the Poker Atlas main event that I mentioned earlier. I think he and I were at the same table quite a bit.
Yeah, and he is starting to get in the actual danger zone. Off of his stack size, he can't really be waiting much more.
So much, in fact, that he has shipped it from the cutoff with suited deuce 4.
Yeah, I think his thought process is that he still has like a very little bit of fold equity, and if he gets any shorter, he will not have any fold equity. And one of the benefits of a hand like this, 4 deuce, is it's not going to interact with your opponent's calling ranges. So they're going to call with hands like King 10, King Jack, Ace Queen, where you're going to be, 70-30, 60-40. Obviously, occasionally they'll have the pairs, and you'll be in really rough shape.
So you're just hoping to get max equity if you do get called. About 39% here, so that's up there. But Chuck has landed a king.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, ideally, you want them to fold and take down the pot pre-flop. Personally, I probably would have waited at least 1 or 2 more hands instead of going with the 4 deuce. But I can understand
trying to maneuver that cutoff position for sure.
It's not as bad as it might seem at first glance because of the lack of interaction with your opponent's calls.
So Mikel here, he goes out a sweet run for himself. He's now out in 7th place. Prize of $8,500 for him. We'll see him at more final tables. He's been at a bunch. So a nice run for him.
Yeah.
And so now the players are guaranteed 5 digits, $10,250 for the next.
Yeah, good game, Mikel. He didn't really have much to work with. He had kings once, but was short to start the table. And sometimes you're just handcuffed, and he did his best with what he had to give, or what he was doing.
And really, he did a good job, as we mentioned earlier, just kind of moving up the ladder there. So he turned what was guaranteed $4,000 into about a $7,000 payday there.
Yep. Chris is right back after it.
Pardon me. He went from $5,000 to $8,500.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see Chris is definitely playing the most hands here. He's also been dealt most of the premiums, which makes it a little bit easier. But being a chip leader, he can really start to ramp up his aggression now as the pay jumps keep getting bigger and bigger. And as the smaller stacks all condense towards one another and he starts to go out on his own, they're going to have more and more incentive to play tight against him.
And quite a few times for Chris, he's been able to pick up pots out of position.
Yeah, he's playing very tight and aggressive, or sorry, loose and aggressive, which is pretty standard practice for chip leaders.
Can I get a count? Oh, kidding.
All right, and I like the open jam against 10 big blind stack with Carol here. He can really put a lot of pressure on her with a very wide range of hands, and King 10 suited is much better than he needs to jam there.
So if you're in the small blind and the big blind behind you has 9x, 9 big blinds, what do you consider all in range to try to take a shot at them?
Well, so it really depends, right? So it depends on where the ladders are at and where the other stacks are at, and then it also depends on what your stack is at. So let's say you get called, and you lose those 9 or 10 big blinds. Is that going to hurt your polling position? Is it going to affect your future play? Also, what are the pay jumps right now? How many people are at the table? There's 6 at the table right now. In this specific scenario, I would consider jamming very, very wide. I would also expect Carol to play a little too tight. So on certain occasions, I would consider jamming almost any 2 into her at that point. But there's just, and that's the thing, there's just so many variables that you have to consider. So yeah, for this specific scenario, I would consider jamming any 2 there. So King 10 is
I
a
love one of the
slam dunk.
points you brought up there as far as you have to keep in mind what your own stack is.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many years it took me to realize that very point. I would always recognize the stack behind me, the 9x, the 5x, the 10x, whatever I wanted to take a shot at. But if I took a shot at that 9x, it would cut me in half. And then I never realized that until after it cut me in half. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And man, it took me years to realize, hey, ding dong, you can look at your own stack.
Yeah, there's a couple concepts that are really important for when you're starting to try to learn final table poker. Risk premium and risk advantage. It essentially tells you how much tighter you have to play as a shorter stack, and how much, conversely, how much you can push around small and medium stacks as the bigger stack. And all the other stacks at the table matter for that calculation, as do the pay jumps and the actual numbers on the payout board. So that's why poker is so fun, especially these tournaments, is being able to figure these puzzles out in real time is a huge edge. And Carol finds a good hand to jam with here on the button, King 10. Very easy jam for 9 big blinds, and is probably going to get it through here.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
well,
Chris
I thought it was out of turn there, which
because I'm senile.
could have hurt her a little bit. Aggie Chris might have bet that middle pair there against the.
Oh, this was. I thought this was all pre-flop. Yeah.
So yeah, Carol flatted pre-flop, and so we were off to this flop.
Oh, I missed. Yeah,
and
I
Aggie
missed the
Chris
pre-flop
landed
action.
middle pair, so he might have let out there.
Yeah, so I would have liked to see Carol just go all in pre-flop and give herself the best chance of winning. She did end up making more money because of it, because Chris ended up putting in money there with the 7 deuce. But then, yeah, you really want to be careful and make sure you're playing in flow. Definitely could have cost herself a double up there.
Yeah, King 10, plenty of range, plenty of range there to open it up.
Yeah.
Chips at bounty tournament.
Oh. Man, our chat is cranking here, whether it be folks chatting or our friends from Streamlabs.
She said I said call. I meant the 1,000.
I guess technically it could be a penalty, but I think, one of the really nice things about playing in Texas, people like to play by the spirit of the game and the spirit of the rules. I don't think anything nefarious was meant there. That being said, if a player did speak up and wanted to call the floor, it'd probably just be a warning. But I'm not as familiar with the rules of tournaments. And that's a general rule why you just want to protect yourself at all times. I always like to make sure I know what the action is before I act. Try not to speak unless I know what I'm saying. And so it's always best to protect yourself at the table, especially if you go out to like Vegas during the WSOP. There's going to be a lot of really stingy, angle shooty type players.
Oh, we got us a hand here, by the way.
Oh yeah, Talia wakes up.
Small blind versus big blind violence. Ace king
Yeah.
for Sardine. Natalia with jacks.
Yeah, so this is just a standard hand. Both players are going to get it all in here, even if they switch hands.
Or the guy that has them.
King 6-4 on the flop. Sardine lands it.
Yeah, and his dream of waking up with jacks in the big blind turns into a nightmare.
Gonna need a jack
Yeah.
to no avail. 9 of spades on the river, and Sardine will get the knockout here. Natalia's jack's no good.
Good game, Natalia. Really had nothing to work with all day, but again, he laddered up 4 or 5 spots here and made over $10,000. So really well played. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to fold.
There you go. Natalia laddering up to 6th place finish. $10,250 for his efforts. Great run for him. And we'll see him next time here at Texas Card House Dallas. 5 players remain now.
Yeah, and look at Carol. She is just moving on up. She went from the short stack being guaranteed 5K to now being guaranteed over 12. So let's see if she can keep moving up. Got a lot of Carol fans out here in the chat.
So now with only 5 players, a lot of chips moving to Aggie Chris. He'll be able to put a little more pressure on as the field dwindles.
Yeah, and especially with Carol being so short on his direct right, once she folds, all the other players have to be really careful because they want to outlast Carol. And so he can start pressuring those medium stacks extra
right?
aggressively.
That's a fun piece of the puzzle that a lot of people don't think of.
Yeah. And so he kind of wants Carol to stay in there a little bit longer so he can kind of really put the pressure on.
Pick on these medium stacks.
Like, who's she talking to?
Really great flop here for Chuck, though. Top pair and a flush draw.
I like Chuck's spots tonight. He's played a couple of hands very well, and
I agree.
And he's flopped a couple of hands.
See how he chooses to play this. Can't really make a mistake here with this specific hand, but I'd like to go very small and try to keep your opponent's range wide here. I think you went a little too large. The issue with this sizing is now your opponents are really not going to continue with anything that you have beat. And even though you have a lot of equity because of the flush draw, you still only have a 9 kicker. So if your opponent has king 10, king jack, you still have to improve. So I prefer either betting very small or even consider checking and letting your opponents catch up a little bit. You're not really trying to protect against anything. You don't have anything to worry about. So you're either so far ahead that you can afford to let your opponents catch up and get value later, or you're behind anyway and you're going to need to improve to win the hand. So for those reasons, I would have liked a smaller bet, but a lot of players just see the raw strength of their equity and decide to push out it.
So Chuck in the cutoff now. He gets to raise with 9-6 suited. Brian in the small blind. He finds pocket 8s. 450 viewers right now. Make sure you're clicking that like button. Don't make Adam sad, folks. We need some likes.
Really curious to see how Ryan continues here with either a 3-bet or a call. I would prefer a 3-bet, and it does look like that is how he is continuing. Always a little scarier here against another big stack.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
But in the small blind, being out of position,
The rewards or whatever, but one side
kind of want to take the lead.
The other side's specific to that league. I can do whatever with them, but that's sort of what I was thinking with that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, JV3, I think it was an honest mistake. I think you should cut her a break. We've all done it.
Yeah, even there she thought she'd folded and still had her cards, so it took her a second there to throw them in. But the 3-bet will take it down for Ryan.
Yeah, and also keep in mind these players played 2 full days of poker. They're very tired.
Yeah, these multi-days.
Yeah, tournaments are a brutal beast. It takes a lot of stamina. So I think we can cut Carol a break here. She's doing very well.
These multi-days will definitely take it out of you. Chuck, ace king. He'll be opening it up again.
Yeah, and all of these medium stacks now are actually, the average stack is getting a lot deeper. So there's a lot more room to maneuver between them. Carol is the only dangerously short stack. So all these players are have a little bit more room against one another.
Button on the bottom, and then, huh?
So Chris here will defend with queen 9 of clubs, and he likes to see some flops, so being a little more aggressive fits his bill.
Yeah, and he can also take it away on later streets, so he's going to have plenty of opportunities.
Not the flop.
Chris gets out of the way, doesn't flop any equity.
Deuce, deuce 3, usually pretty good for the razor.
All I ask is that you consider it, JB3. I appreciate you keeping an open mind.
I prefer the black tea and orange tea.
Well, the green tea has the most caffeine, so it depends on what you're after. Me, I'm a coffee drink. I need that caffeine. Put it right into the veins. I'm an addict.
I have found the bottom of my coffee cup, so I'm a little bit sad here. Ryan with the suited queen jack. That's enough to get in trouble in the cutoff.
Yeah, I'd say Ryan and Sardine are probably the two most experienced players left.
Oh, my goodness.
No, Carol.
No way.
Oh, poor Carol. She goes away to take a quick break and finally wakes up with a premium.
Carol.
And she's at 10 big blinds, too. She can't really afford to miss those hands. But, hey, when you got to go, you got to go.
Yeah. Jack's on the button there.
Yeah. Stuff like that can be, tournament changing, but also it's all random. She can't know that. Could have just as easily had deuce 7 there.
Yeah, back in the day, I would kid with my buddies saying tournaments should have no breaks. That's part of it. Whenever you take your break, whenever you take your break, if you miss your top set, you missed your top set.
I played a tag team tournament at the series one year where there was no breaks, and so if you had to go to the bathroom, you have your partner come over, which I think is actually a really cool way to do it. So
I think I got to watch a final table of one of the tag team events one year in Vegas.
Those are always fun.
My buddy Chris Stats was rocking a final table that day, so I went in there to check on him while I was running around Vegas.
That name sounds very familiar.
Yeah, you guys have probably ran across each other.
I think I played a few final tables with him.
Green tea energy drink. Now you're talking. So Chris able to put some aggression here as Carol's away from the table. Even more of a situation what you were talking about earlier. These guys trying to outlast Carol, and now she's not even there.
Looks like she is making her way back for the big blind. Yeah, and the players, they don't want to win like that either. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they slowed down their play and try to wait for her to come back.
Yeah, right. I'm not a fan of stalling, but that was almost a scenario where you might have a thinker at least for 30 seconds or something.
Yeah.
Didn't draw my hands good.
Yeah, Bill, I know that's a fan favorite. There's always a lot of excitement on the rail because your partner can watch you and hear a lot of loud noises coming from the tag team section. Yeah, Angie, a lot of strong Houston tournament players for sure. Chris is one of them.
Well, Carol's going to find one here to rip it with. King 5 of diamonds.
Yeah, and that's actually going to put Chris in a tough spot. He's getting a really good price considering how short she is, but he also expects to have to improve. So he's probably just going to get out of the way here.
So she's short, but it is about a pot-sized bet.
Nice hand, Carol. See, she gets it all back first hand.
I don't bluff. So I don't bluff.
Super all them other times.
Almost 500 of you all watching. Thank you so much for joining. Remember to hit that like button while you're here. It means a lot to us. It shows us that you guys care and want to keep watching. Helps us stay on the air. Yes, Angie, that is who we were talking about, Chris Stats.
Said if the 8 had been a diamond, I would have run with you.
Yeah, there's a couple of those strong Houston players that Chris hangs out with.
Yeah, and originally he's one of the Oklahomies. So that's where Chris and I go way back to the Oklahoma playing days.
Yeah, we made a couple of deep runs with him over at Durant. Oh, and Carol with another spot right away. I want to see her run it all the way back and just take this tournament.
Let's go. She'll raise it up to 475 with this premium of Ace Queen.
Yeah, and she can honestly just go ahead and get it all in there at her stack size. Does decide to go with a smaller raise, but with a club, she's probably going to just still have to go.
She's got 2 overs and a club. Chris has a pair, so Chris has ripped it.
Yeah, too much equity to fold here. I like her call. Very good call.
All right, it's a flip.
So, yep, you can see that it is indeed a flip. Carol holding 52% of the equity, while Chris has the pair, 48% of the equity.
That's a good call given the circumstance.
No, it's a great call, Carol. Don't psych yourself out.
So here we go, Chris. Carol going to need an ace, a queen, or a club.
Or a deuce.
Or a deuce. No avail. The 9 of hearts, the river, and Carol.
Good game, Carol.
Will be eliminated by Chris.
Carol made a great showing, considering she was short the whole time, didn't have much to work with. She was still able to ladder up to over $12,000, almost 13.
So we are now down to 4 players. Only 4 remain of the 1,254 entries. 4 players, top prize now, guaranteeing themselves $16,930.
Nice lady.
That is from a $300 buy-in.
That is a sweet chunk of change. That's like 5 entries into the WPT main this weekend in Choctaw.
I wouldn't have called in the first place, but I had chips, and
let's see.
I thought there was a chance I might be able to bust her.
Yeah, Chris is running really good, playing aggressively, really going after it, giving himself a very strong chance of winning this tournament.
So now we'll see that the other 3 players' chips have leveled out just a bit. Chris will have the chip advantage down the stretch here as we go 4-handed.
Yep. And I'm not as familiar with Chuck, but the other 3 players, none of it surprises me that they're here. They make a lot of deep runs, play very solid. And Chuck has been impressing me as well. So I think we're going to have a lot of high-level play here, 4-handed.
So here we have the paired flop, 7-7-5. It goes check, check.
Yeah, and now that we're 4-handed and the stacks are all a little bit more converged, the players are going to need to kind of loosen up a little bit and get after it. That being said, there's still a lot of value in laddering up to those top 2 or 3 spots. So, you know, you have to pick your spots very carefully.
Now we're approaching 15,000 in payout, but that top spot, 50,000. So there's still some big gaps to be played for here.
Yeah, so and it's anybody's game. Any one of these 4 players will be the chip leader with a full double up. So, you know, there's not a lot of pressure that one can necessarily insert on another. If somebody can kind of run away from the field a little bit and kind of gets after it, they might be able to set themselves up pretty well. I know Ryan and Sardine are both very aggressive, strong players, and it wouldn't surprise me to see either one of them open up their play a little bit.
Yeah, really a fun setup here to see who's going to go after that big stack and see how Chris is going to defend it. Seeing a lot of new names here in the chat.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Almost 500 of y'all here.
Tej, Nabil, Mike Parkus, Emily Calabrese. Shout out to all you guys. Dr. Brown saying hello from Sacramento, California. Hello, Dr. Brown. Quick break there for Danny Marks. He's our co-commentator tonight. I myself I am RJ Dupree.
You don't know what I have.
Huh?
You don't know what I have.
Well, no, but I had one of the hands that I like to play. It's not a great hand, but it plays.
So we'll get to listen to these players here as they are now 4-handed. Show those payouts here once again. 4-handed, outlasting 1,250 players. 16,930 now, guaranteed 50,000 up top. So it folds around to the small blind of Ryan. He'll bump it up to 150,000. Chris will make the call. Jack, Jack, deuce, paired board. See if he wants to continue with those paired boards. He will check. Ryan now picking up a gut shot here, giving him a little bit of equity so he's able to lead out, see what's going on. Aggie Chris looking up at that payout tournament structure right above him, and he shows the king and lays it down.
100%. Who knows? Maybe I should have.
Wish you did. Said I wish you did.
I'll ask anybody. They'll tell you I'm perfectly capable of punting. It doesn't have to be that.
Jeff Walsinger in the chat. He
There'll be
says he's
opportunities.
enjoying the commentary. Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate those kind words. Dr. Brown in the chat saying no chop. He's cheering to take this thing down. One winner. Let's go. All right, Chris lands middle pair here. He'll lead out. Chuck hanging out over there with the deuce four. He just folds.
Pair is a pair is a pair is a pair.
Pair's a pair. Able to pick up some blinds. So we're still four-handed here. The button moved over to Chris. Chris put a little pressure on it with Queen 8 offsuit.
Miss any big hands?
No, not really, but it did make me think of a opportunity to ask you a question. Twice we had small blind raise into the big blind, small.
Okay.
Big blind would make the call, and twice the board would come out with a paired flop. Do you like c-betting those paired flops in that particular situation? What do you think about that scenario?
So again, it really just depends. The specifics really matter here. Is the pair a high pair or a low pair? And then also, what is the dangling card? So the thing is, in general, blind versus blind strategy is going to be one of the most important setups late in a tournament. Probably the formation you want to practice the most, other than maybe like button versus big blind, because it's just going to happen over and over again. And so a lot of people will choose to have a very limp heavy range, even with their strongest hands like aces in the small blind. But when you do raise, your opponent is going to be able to continue very wide because they're going to have position on you. And so you are going to have range advantage. So like, let's say it's deuce, deuce, jack. You can actually continue and c-bet a lot on that board for a very small size because it's just going to miss your opponent completely. They're just going to flop no equity so often, and you're just going to be able to take it down. But if the board is like queen, queen, jack, or 10, 10, 9.
Yeah, and I'd say most recently we had one of each, so it's good you bring up both.
Well, there you go. You can't just c-bet that board indiscriminately because your opponent is now going to be able to continue a lot in position. The stack to pot ratio is still going to probably be very deep. And so you're going to start putting yourself in some difficult spots. So again, it just really, the details matter on those questions.
Yeah, and those are some fun details because I know a lot of times we hear different opinions from different people about how they handle paired flops and when the pair comes out. Do you always try to take advantage of that, or when should you check and stuff like that?
So, and that's another good learning opportunity. I think learning how to ask good questions in poker is very important. So instead of just asking a generic question, asking maybe more specific with the stack sizes and the positions and formations, and that can really help you kind of understand how to think through a spot correctly. And that's why this game is so fun and complex.
Yeah, I know my question stunk, but you know.
No,
You were
I didn't mean it
gone.
like
No,
that.
not
Yeah,
either.
no.
Yesterday, a friend of mine came up to
Yeah.
me with a poker question, and right away I said, "What's the stacks?"
Mhm.
And so he was like, "Okay."
And that's actually great, and like that's why that was actually a really good learning opportunity to kind of explain a couple of different scenarios off
Yeah.
it. So I actually think it's a great question. Just figured that'd be a good opportunity for a lot of the people in the chat who maybe don't play as much to start asking their friends, or when they're talking about poker strategy, asking better questions so they can have deeper
So
conversations.
Ryan makes the call here. Super fun hand here. Not a ton in that pot, but there's 3 million. So this is really the first time tonight we've seen some playability. Somebody trying to get that pot with not much of a hand, and Ryan makes a nice hand there, or a nice call with the 6.
And I think he takes the chip lead with that pot too. He's seeing Chris be very aggressive tonight, and that's an example of a board that Chris is not going to connect with very often. So I really like that call. And now Ryan is in a good position now to start leaning on the rest of the table.
Yeah, nice call. Swig and Smoke Barbecue in the chat. What's up? Good to see you guys. Sardine Kings are out again.
Been a while since we've seen those kings. Let's see if they get cracked again.
Yeah, they went away for a few hands, and they are back.
Chris has had a lot of these low suited connector type hands. He really likes to play those. Made some big hands with them.
Sardine opens up for 350.
Oh, and again he flops an open under. Oh, and he leads right out into the under the gun player. Again, I think that's very dangerous. Sardine opened under the gun with a shorter stack. He's representing a lot of big hands here. If Chris wants to play the hand aggressively, he could do it through a check raise. But this allows Sardine to play perfectly throughout, and he's going to really be able to get max value now.
So just a call here from Sardine. Chris bet about 45% pot there on that flop, so we're up to 1.9 now.
Yeah, and I really like just calling here from Sardine. You want to let your opponent hang himself. You're just going to be so far ahead of your opponent's lead ranges into you here.
So this time, Aggie Chris bets 750,000.
Yeah, a pretty small bet again against a third pot size. I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to get a little bit more value and start raising now, but I'd still like to see him stay disciplined. He also has a heart in his hand, so he's not as worried about heart runouts. And so I think he's going to get the most value here by just calling.
Just a call. Teague in the chat, he's a little nervous. It's kings again.
He can't love to see that 9 because I think a lot of Chris's leads are going to contain a 9 in them. But against this sizing here, he's got such a good price, and he still has plenty of room if he's wrong, where I don't see him being able to get away from this.
So yes, you can see there a bit of a shake of the head as he wasn't thrilled about the 9, but he does make the call.
Yeah, the 9 was probably one of the worst cards, maybe a heart or like an ace of hearts on the river. But you can see just by being patient and not necessarily ramming and jamming your hand, he was able to make a lot more off of that hand than if he just raised the flop.
Yeah, nice pot there for Sardine. So now Sardine has taken a chunk out of what was the chip leader, as did Ryan. So these chip levels really evening out now.
Yeah, and those were my 2 predictions to start the final table to have the best chance of winning. Sardine and Ryan, both very strong players, and they're both showing their chops now by playing very thoughtful poker, trying to maximize their hands and making difficult plays.
It's about showing them chops now.
Yeah, a lot of people get scared about runouts and they start raising early, but you can see how much more he made by letting his opponent keep his hand or his range wide.
SK in the chat, nice stream. RJ, always a professional commentator. Thank you for the nice words
See,
from my
great.
friend Sean.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Danny sucks, but RJ is great.
One of my 2 fans out there. It's great.
He's got a face for radio or whatever.
Indeed. Definitely proud to admit that. Face for radio.
No, he's got a great voice for this. Definitely a lot better at this commentating thing than I am. It's a lot of fun.
Happy to be joined by the rock star Danny Marks. That's the voice you're hearing right there.
I'm happy to continue improving, and a lot of fun, a lot of mental energy trying to talk through the hands.
All right, pocket eights in the small blind for Sardine, always a fun one.
And you can see this is what I was talking about before. A lot of players in this formation, I mean, they're both 50, they're 53 big blinds effective. And so you want to be very careful raising, even with some of your stronger hands out of the small blind, because Ryan's going to be able to continue with a ton of hands in position, and they're so deep that Sardine is going to have a tough time realizing it throughout. So what he can do is he can start limp calling with some of these medium hands, and then limp raising as well to lower the SPR with hands like aces and stuff like that. And this way he can start controlling the pot early and play eights for its showdown value right away.
That's just a way of controlling your playability even out of position.
Yeah, and I would have liked to see Ryan bet range here on the Queen 7 deuce board, especially with his specific holding. I think Sardine is going to have to continue with a lot of his limp calls. Does decide to check back for a little bit of deception.
And now he bets 850,000.
Yeah, trying to make up for a little bit of value there. I think you can bet really small on the flop with your entire range, and your opponent's just going to have to continue. So I think you're giving up a little bit of value, but making up for it with a very nice size bet here on the turn, and putting Sardine in a very tough spot. He can't really like that jack, but it's also hard to give up a pair this strong heads up for one bet. But he does make a very disciplined laydown. Two of the chip leaders, they don't really want to tangle that much. They're also two of the stronger players at the table. So really well played by both players.
So there we go. We're in hand 75 now, this final table of the bigger one.
Yeah, over 500 of y'all joining us. Really appreciate you guys. Remember to hit that like button.
Blinds will now be 100,000, 200,000. So now that we're four-handed, these blinds are going up 100, 200,000. All players here still with plenty of blinds now as the stacks have leveled out a bit.
Yeah, even some of the shorter stacks, 30, 40 bigs, the big stacks, 50, 60. So anybody's game still. This is where you're really going to see, the skillful players realize their edge short-handed here off of these stack depths.
Once again, a medium pair in the small blind. This one played differently as Ryan decides to raise with this one.
Yeah, you can go either way. And against, now that Chris is a little bit shorter, he's going to have to be a little more careful. So you can start exerting pressure on him right away.
And his raise was a little more lucky in that Sardine actually was playing against a hand in the big blind. This time Ryan was able to raise, and there was the holdings behind him was pretty much squadouche. Two letters for Sardine under the gun. He'll get to open it up with Queen Jack. Also in the cutoff here, four-handed.
Pretty standard defend here with the suited king here. Suited kings are very good short-handed. You could even consider coming in for a 3-bet, but I'd prefer that against a later position open.
That suited king now with a flush draw.
Yep, won't be going anywhere now. And so this is an example you were asking about the paired boards. So Sardine opened under the gun. He's indicating a lot of strength right off the bat. And on a deuce-deuce 9 board, your opponent's just going to have zero equity so often, and you have no showdown value with your queen high. So you have a lot of incentive here to just c-bet your entire range for a very small size and start putting your opponent in the blender right away with their zero equity hands.
Chuck goes with a check raise here.
And yeah, so obviously Chuck did have a lot of equity, and so his continues knowing that Sardine is going to c-bet his entire range here, and we don't really have much showdown value with the king high flush draw. I prefer a check raise right away, so I think both players played that hand absolutely perfectly. I would have done the same thing in both of their shoes. So those low paired boards are actually really good to check raise as well, because your opponent's are not going to hit that very often, and Sardine raising under the gun is never really going to have a deuce in his hand, where Chuck with the big blind defense is going to have some deuce in his hand. So he can represent the strongest hands. So even though Sardine has a range advantage, Chuck actually has the nut advantage. And so you can start putting in some check raises there with the nut
And
advantage.
it definitely helps when you flop that flush draw to represent that advantage.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So that's why that was a perfect candidate, because then even if your opponent does have the overpairs or a pair that can continue, you can still make the best hand with all that equity. So that's why both players played that hand really well.
So fun little spot here for Sardine is he has the 5 of diamonds. Had a flush draw, tiny, with that gut shot, but he has missed.
Ooh, and Chris gives up, and he's going to take it down with the king high. Yeah, never muck your hand short-handed. King high is pretty good.
That's right. And Sardine spikes his hand. A little bit out of frustration, but he knew he had king high. He throws it up, tables it, and takes down a pot.
Yeah, and I've never played with Chuck here, but he's also impressed me quite a bit. Really love that check raise on that previous hand. Chris has had some hard times the last few hands. Let's see if he can bounce back.
Jack Stein with a shout out to us saying this is better than the NBA and NHL playoffs.
Well, we're glad you're joining us here, Jack.
That's right. Where would you rather be? Ace 10 in the small blind.
So let's see. Yeah, I was going to say, it wouldn't surprise me. Some players have a limp range strategy, meaning that they actually have no raises in this spot, blind versus blind, especially when you're second in chips and the chip leader is the one that you're raising into. Also, on a board like this, now your opponents are not going to put you on an ace-x very often. I like to bet one big blind with a lot of my range on a board like this.
Exactly what he's done.
And that's what he does. But the thing is, he can do that with
just about everything.
Let's say he had 5, 6 of hearts. He could still do it with that. So I really like the way that Sardine is approaching this blind versus blind. And if any of you guys want tips to improve your tournament game, I would definitely work on your blind versus blind strategy. It's where you can get a lot of edge against opponents who are not as familiar with that.
Yeah, I think sometimes beginner players, when they first jump into tournaments, they don't realize that a great percentage of all your play comes from cutoff, button, blind. Yep. That spot.
Especially
everywhere
late,
else,
when everybody's playing tight and short, it's going to fold around to those late position players quite often.
Sardine with another premium one here on the button with ace king of spades. 9 deuce 5, bit of a raggy flop.
Yeah, and Chris might feel like he has to defend wide here, being in the big blind. But off of his stack size, I think the queen deuce probably could just be a fold against that size, but he does get there and is going to be able to take it down.
Pair now on the turn.
Queen's a really bad card here for Sardine. I would expect my opponent to hit this board quite often. Although it is hard to just give it up for one bet. I wouldn't mind either way. You unblock the diamonds. You don't have any hearts or clubs in your hand either. So continuing through one more bet and trying to see a river would not be bad. But he's playing very solid, thinking it through. I wouldn't mind either decision here. That being either fold or call. But I do prefer a fold, and I think he makes a good discipline laydown.
Yeah, it's the second time he's had to fold his ace king on the turn with air.
Yeah.
I think the deuce was good all by itself.
Both times correctly.
Yeah, and another tip for all y'all, when you're deciding whether or not to c-bet, whether or not to continue, the main factors other than the stack sizes and positional formations are the board texture. So you really want to be able to read the board and understand how it interacts with not only your hand, but your opponent's perceived possible hands, called their perceived range. And so I think he realized that board really connects with the big blind's calling range there, and he was not in good shape to continue. even with a very strong ace-high shorthanded.
So here we are, four-handed. This, the even bigger one. $250,000 guaranteed tournament here at Texas Card House Dallas. You can see the skyline right there on the table. That is the beautiful skyline of downtown Dallas.
Beautiful table.
I am RJ Dupree. He is Danny Marks, and we're being compared to NBA and NHL playoffs in the chat.
They got nothing on us.
What a compliment. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
I considered announcing for the NBA playoffs tonight, but I could not pass
You
this
had it,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, I decided to come
Said no thanks,
to the
guys.
TCH $300 monthly tournament instead.
No thanks, guys. Got to go run it back with RJ.
Yeah, they didn't offer me enough money. You know?
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Glad you're enjoying it, Marcus. I'm actually giving you all fake information, so use it and
Open-ended
lose.
here. Open-ended versus a pair.
Yep.
Chris has found himself in this situation quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, both are very strong hands here, shorthanded. I expect some money to go in here. And I'd really like to see Ryan stay passive with this, try to keep his opponent's range wide and bluff into him. With the check back on the turn and your kicker being very good shorthanded, you can probably go for a small blocker bet here out of position, try to get called by worse queens, 3x type hands, or pairs. He does go for that about 25-30% sizing, which is a really nice blocker size. Really well played by both players.
I'm busy throwing it away right now. See if we can put a stop to that nonsense.
Was he a poker superstar, JB3? I spelled my name a little bit different, but I'm sure he is also incredibly attractive and intelligent, just like all Danny Markses are. Ryan getting after it. Coming, kind of running away with the chip lead a little bit, putting a little bit of pressure, leaning on the rest of the table.
And Chris mentioned before that hand that he's showing a little bit of frustration in that he's mad that he's spewing a little bit right here, as Ryan and Sardine have both picked him off twice.
You know, and one piece of advice that I would give Chris right now, you know, he's a great guy, always very positive, jovial. Whenever you start noticing yourself get frustrated, slow down a little bit. You can see that his play has sped up, and he's not really thinking about his decisions and just kind of tossing chips in the middle. And so you really want to do the opposite when you're starting to get frustrated, and really make sure you think through the spot and know what you want to do. So, you know, kind of breathe and give yourself a chance here. You know, you still have plenty of chips. You don't want to throw away 20 big blinds.
Yeah, and I think that's a good tip for anyone listening, even in cash games, right? If you find yourself just moving fast, getting a little cranky, slow down.
Yep, absolutely. You know, I'm always a fan of fast play, but you don't have to play that fast. You can at least kind of consider your options and understand your thought process before you act and put chips into the pot.
Yeah, you want to be under control, whether it be fast or not. And sometimes if you start to tilt up a bit, start playing a little speedy, that's where you lose your control. And if you can recognize that and take a moment, slow down a couple of hands, it definitely helps.
Yeah, and you can really see with his table posture. And Chris, I'm not picking on you. I think you're a great guy. You've been playing really well. Just some tips out there for y'all. You know, you can see the frustration a little bit. So don't be afraid to, stand up, stretch, and, give yourself a chance, give yourself a pep talk. It's really never over in these tournaments, and you're playing for a lot of money. There's, $25,000 or $35,000 difference between first and fourth. And so that's a nice car right there. So you want to give yourself the best possible chance to win.
Both players landing a pair here with backdoor hearts.
Yeah, very strong flop for both players. I like c-betting this board. Ryan is the pre-flop raiser, especially with all the backdoor equity. I would like to see Chuck just call, trying to keep my opponent's bluffs in. But I guess short-handed or raise is not that bad either, because you can see, for instance, Ryan is going to have to continue with some of these pairs that have strong backdoor equity, like the hand that he had.
So now it goes check, check. No help for either player. Chuck still with the best of it, top pair.
Yeah, and I do really like Ryan's call there on the flop in position. You know, there's so many runouts where he'll be able to take it away or improve on his hand to a hidden strong hand. So it looks like Chuck actually probably did get the max value here.
Queen Jack possibly could have connected with that 9, but awful tough to represent it.
Let's see, if he's going to go for a bluff, it's going to have to be really big.
Pretty big there.
Yeah, he does go for a large sizing, which I like. I don't know if it's going to work. He does have a queen in his hand, so he blocks, you know, the queen jack type hand, which is the obvious draw that got there. And see, this is why it was a little dangerous for Chuck to raise right away with the 6 kicker, because even just like a king jack type hand is going to be able to get value against you now, and you can't love your spot. And does go for the pot size bet here. Let's see if Chuck can make a very tough call. Let's see what he does. Definitely don't envy his spot right now.
Thank you, Ali, in the chat. Good luck to you as well.
I just don't think you can really be making a habit of folding top pair in these blind versus button spots four-handed. But with this specific run out, I wouldn't blame him if he does. Especially Ryan continuing against the check raise there. Great call, Chuck.
And he's going to sniff it out. He wants to see it. Makes the call with king 6. Yeah. He'll turn over a winner.
Yeah, really well played by both. And honestly, I think if Ryan is going to bluff there, I would have liked to see him go all in. Chuck caps his range a lot when he checks back on the turn. Although I guess he could have some queen jacks, but you have the queen in your hand as well. So really putting max pressure on to force the fold, especially with Chris being a shorter stack. But I do think that was a really well played hand by both players. That was our first player to really go for the bluff. And even though Chris is short here, he still has plenty of room to maneuver here, starting the hand with 17, 18 bigs. Standard open here with the suited king on the button. And I do like folding the queen 7 offsuit here. Yeah, Mitchell, I agree. I think as played, you probably cannot fold there to that size bet. Which is another reason why I start liking these giant overbet all-ins in those situations to really put the max pressure if you are going to go for it. And I think he had a decent candidate to do it with, blocking bottom sets, blocking straight draws. So, well played by both. And with that hand, Chuck does take the chip lead away from Ryan. That was a pretty big swing there. But still anybody's game.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Busy daydreaming over here.
Yeah, Flo, he did blow up the pot, check raise in the flop. Generally, I would have liked to have a larger kicker for my check raises there, but short-handed, it can't be that bad. Start to charge your opponent with all of his medium strength holdings.
It's not a great hand, but it's a pretty good hand.
Yeah, Ryan is definitely not afraid to bluff. And honestly, none of these players are. We've seen a lot of very high-level plays here short-handed.
650.
Wow. See Chuck just fold the ace there. Blind versus blind, heads up. Yeah, he's noticed that you know, Chris has not been opening very wide in the small blind. But you know, you could probably just jam over the top of him for 20 bigs with any ace there. Ryan with the suited king, which is probably going to be an open from any position here, four-handed. And Sardine has a nice hand to defend the blind with here with the suited connector. Generally, when you're out of position here, 50 bigs, it really helps to have hands like this where you're going to have a lot of clarity on your equity post-flop. And so you'll have like a good reasoning to put in chips post-flop without necessarily having to risk a lot. On a board like Queen 10-10, I would probably see bet range here very small for Ryan. Your opponent's going to have a lot of junk where you just want to clean up all that equity and get rid of their pair draw type hands. Ryan has definitely been very impressive. He's a lot of his sizings are very good. You've noticed that he goes for very small sizes here on these C-bets on the boards that his opponent's going to miss very often. He's risking very little to win a lot of equity and to clean up a lot of equity. And that's why he keeps gaining these chips here a little bit at a time and really putting pressure on his opponent. Ryan has probably done the best job of chipping up without showdown here by just putting a lot of pressure with a lot of small bets and raises against his opponent.
What are you giggling about?
Definitely the most aggressive player at the table so far.
Flirting with you again? Is that what's going on?
I do expect a little bit of a lull here in the action just because the players are so deep here, the average stack, that there's a little bit more room to maneuver, and I wouldn't be surprised if no one gets eliminated in this blind level. Chris is really the only short stack that's going to be at risk here. Does do a standard 3-bet jam here for 22 big blinds, blind versus blind against a small blind open, and Ryan's got a very difficult spot here. Knows Chris has been getting after it. I think he's going to have a lot of worse hands like King Queen, low pocket pairs like he does. I'm not sure though, because he's going to also have a lot of the bigger ace-X where we're going to be dominated. So this is a very close spot. 22 bigs is quite a bit to call off here with the ace-8 suited, and does decide to think better of it, thinks he can find a better spot. Yeah, I do think I prefer a fold there. 22 bigs is just a little too much.
Can't believe I said I do got.
But very close.
I didn't really say that. I mean, I had a pair, but do got doesn't sound very good, does it? $1.1 million.
Chris goes for the 3-bet non-all-in here off of 20 bigs. Puts about a quarter of his stack in. Takes it down. Sometimes you can do that with some of your strongest holdings to try to induce your opponent to continue wider or to bluff all in.
Apparently they're getting grumpy over there.
So RJ, while you were away, Chris made a couple of moves there. Nice
Did you bust anybody?
no, but no
Okay,
busting,
okay.
and the opposite happened because Chris kind of is a little bit closer to the field now. He won 2 3-bet pots in a row.
Okay.
It's like the one table where people.
A couple of 3-bets, able to get in there and take them down, huh?
They're always angry.
Huh?
They're always angry.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's like you're playing cards. It's fun. I mean, it ought to be fun.
So Chuck finding a flush here on the turn with the 10 of diamonds.
Take 16, 17
Yeah,
grand.
tough spot for Sardine, trying to figure out if he needs to, if he should bet here for value. I think we're probably a little too weak to be betting here, and we have some showdown value. I think he might want to try to clean up some equity, which is a reason buy himself a cheaper showdown. But now that he's been check raised, I think he's got a pretty easy fold here.
So Chuck's found some opportunistic spots to check raise. This yet another one.
Can't wait to throw all their money away. So, you know, here's a couple $1,000 and all I do is pitch.
Yeah.
You know, these guys.
Yeah, so you think basically Sardine really just kind of trying to steal that on the turn and gets check raised and away you go?
It's kind of tough, you know. It's a little bit in between. You know, it goes back to why do we bet? You know, like a lot of people don't even know why they put money into the pot. You can't just necessarily.
That's my poker book.
Oh, that's how most people are, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But it's not always a clear reason. You can't just say, oh, he's bluffing. Oh, he's betting for value. Most of the time, it's a spectrum between the two. So. Especially when there's still cards left to act. So you want to think about what kind of protection you need on your middling strength hands. What kind of hands my opponents will continue with. Sometimes certain bets are going to get worse hands to call you and better hands to fold. You call that a mega master, and so those are reasons to bet. With that specific scenario with the pair of sevens, he's very likely to be good against a capped range of Chuck there. But at the same time, are you really going to get worse to be calling you there? And do you need protection? He had a diamond in his hand as well. So I would have liked to see him just kind of check that one back. It's kind of a little too in between, a little too mergy to be betting there. But I can see arguments both ways. So an example would be if his hand was a lot worse, he would want to bet because now he's got no showdown value and he wants to give himself a chance to win the pot. If his hand's a lot better, he wants to bet because now he can get value from it. But with that specific middling type strength hand, I would like to see a check.
Stuck in the middle with just a schmedium hint of showdown value.
Exactly.
Schmedium, never a fun place to be.
Mm-mm.
Speaking of schmedium, Aggie Chris
Both
here
players.
playing the diaper. Deuce 3 against ace 8-6. Nobody landing anything.
I'll take it down. Chris is making his way back up. He's almost doubled up from his short stack of 4 million. Well over 35 bigs now. Everybody, you know, when the short stack has 35 bigs, there is a lot of play left.
So there's definitely still a lot of play left. As he's mentioned, blinds are 100, 200,000 here. We should be nearing the end of this level.
Yeah, when you were gone, I mentioned how I wouldn't have been surprised if no one gets eliminated at this blind level and play to slow down a little bit. Just with so much money in the pay jumps and with how deep the stacks are, there's a lot more room to maneuver, and players are going to be a little more careful about the spots they choose.
Yeah, definitely some playability right now at this level for these four with these 4 stacks.
Yep.
So we'll have to.
A lot of very tough play, a lot of good check raising, aggression. You know, that's how you win these tournaments. Also being very patient when they are dealt bad hands. I think Chuck might be playing a little bit too tight from the blinds. The other thing with the blind versus blind play is you're forced to play a lot of hands, and so you have such a good price to enter the pot there. He folded king 8 off first to act in the small blind, and that's going to be one of your stronger hands. So you need to start developing a limping range, which will protect those weaker hands that you want to see flops with by also doing it with some of your stronger hands. That's why you can actually start limping aces there to protect your hands like king 8. From just getting relentlessly raised if you try to limp in from the small blind.
Yeah, the king high hands will become stronger in that situation, so you can open up your range a bit.
Yeah, and I noticed that he folded an ace blind versus blind earlier as well. It was against an open, so there's a better argument for it. But a lot of players, they just don't have very much experience shorthanded, so they play the same type of hands that they play at a full ring table. But you really have to force yourself to expand a little bit and put yourself in some uncomfortable positions that you might not be used to.
I can't say stuff like that. Brittany will get jealous. It's a true story.
And Ryan's been doing a lot of raising blind versus blind with his stronger holdings. You can see the difference between him and Sardine style. Sardine has chosen to limp his entire range blind versus blind, while Ryan is continuing to try to put on pressure. That being said, he's also against the short stack in the big blind, so he has a little more incentive to be aggressive and put more fold equity on him right away.
Yeah, it's kind of fun with those 3 sitting next to each other, all 3 of them handling their small blinds differently.
Yep.
Where Chuck's being very snug, Sardine is limping, and Ryan is raising.
There's more than one way to win at this game, for sure.
No, I'm Chuck. I don't know who that is.
So here, Ryan is raised from the button, putting a little pressure on Chuck in his big blind.
Oh, and yeah, that's another example.
Yeah.
That's a very strong hand there to defend the big blind. And he's also the chip leader. So players have to be very careful against him. But if he is going to be giving up his blinds that easy, he's going to slowly bleed that chip lead back to the more aggressive players like Ryan and Sardine.
You think players have picked up on him being a little snug in the small blind and able to sense that a bit?
Definitely possible. But yeah, that hand plays very well post flop, shorthanded, and you're only risking one more blind to potentially see a very easy flop to navigate, and you can always get out of there post flop. But it's you're going to bleed a little too much if you start folding hands as strong as Jack 9 against a button open.
So here we have some blind on blind violence, but they both have the same holdings. King Jack versus King Jack.
Love these spots.
4-4 deuce. Ugly paired board.
Yeah, another one, and that shows you again like the low pair and with a low kicker on there. Both players are going to miss this flop very often, but both players also have very strong ranges that can continue because they are also good against nothing most of the time. So let's see who shows the the heart and the aggression to take this down. I think whoever bets at this can take it down. Ooh, Chuck is giving him a little bit of a look, trying to get a read off of him. But he's definitely been playing a little more straightforward lately. See if he can, anyone rush for the bluff.
We're going to chop it up.
Good hand,
Yeah, I would like to see with the king high a
might
bet
bet
at some
3 bet.
point. I think with ace high, you can expect to be good at showdown a lot more often, so you don't need to turn your hand into a bluff. But on that board, it would have been nice. Like, you know what? I take it back. King high is also pretty good there with a strong kicker. You beat all the other
Yeah,
king
that's kind of the way I
highs.
feel.
You know, you're going to beat a lot of hands like queen jack, queen 10. So I think that's reasonably played by both players. See, I take it back.
Under the gun here, four-handed. Also in the cutoff. So what do you think's more important four-handed? The fact that you're in the cutoff or the fact that you're under the gun?
I don't know. They're pretty equally weighted in my head.
Yeah, often a pretty good spot to be able to maneuver some things as long as you have plenty of chips.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Even though you're under the gun, you're actually in one of the later position spots. You only have to get through one position to buy the button. And Sardine understands, and that's why you can see him opening. You know, hands like Queen 7 on the button are going to be very strong opens.
Just going to run into it here as Chris has big blind
Yeah.
queens.
See what sizing he chooses here. Goes for the 5 big blind size. I think that's fine. Could go even a little bit bigger, but off of his stack size, trying to get a little extra value, going with the 5 BB open or 3 bet.
So it went from 450 now to $1 million.
Yeah, giving his opponent a good price to call. Probably could have gone maybe like 5.5 to 6 bigs, being this deep. But he definitely wanted to keep his opponent in. So this is actually a really interesting flop. This is not a good flop for your hand. And generally, the pre-flop caller is going to hit this a lot harder than you. And so I wouldn't mind actually starting with a check with my entire range here. And then when your opponent does start to stab at it, then you can start putting in check raises to try to lower that SPR right away. Because you are going to have the best hand a lot, but if you just start betting, your opponent's going to be able to continue and put you in really difficult spots on later streets. So by checking your entire range there and keeping your opponent's hand range wide, you can start not only getting more value against the weaker portion of their range, but also actually protect your hand a little bit more when they do start putting money into the pot.
Ryan has an ace on the button. He'll raise it up.
And that goes again to reading board textures, which is probably one of the more important aspects to high-level poker. And so, yeah, if you want to learn when to c-bet, when to check, how to develop your strategies, you really want to learn how to read the board texture based on the pre-flop action.
There you go, kids. You learned it here. Board texture, one of your favorite things to look up. That's your homework for next week.
Maybe that'll be my catchphrase, board texture. It also just makes you a lot harder to play against because, you know, Chris is going to just miss that flop so often as the 3-better there. And so if every time he checks, he has nothing, all of those give-ups, the king queens, the ace jacks, his opponent's going to easily be able to take him away. But if you start checking strong overpairs like that, then you're going to be a lot harder to play against because now you can't just relentlessly get them off their hand. They're going to put you in a lot of very tough spots.
And they say change it up for value. That's just one of those ways right there that you can kind of do that.
Yeah. Yeah, Swig, get to work. We expect we're going to quiz you guys tomorrow on your homework. And speaking of tomorrow, join us for our Tuesday cash game stream, 5-10 quarter, I believe.
Yeah, the Tuesday night stream here from Dallas is always a lot of fun, especially when the quarter guys show up. The Danny, I think you had a chance. What was it, last week or the week before you were on
I
there?
played 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that want to play right now. So, Mallory's trying to give more people seats. But whenever I get a seat, I love to play in that game. Great crew, a lot of money changing hands. So I always look forward to playing on the Tuesday
Yeah, they were
cash game
playing
stream.
pretty deep in that one, if I remember
Yeah, we were
correctly.
playing 25, 50, 50 that day, I believe, with a $100 straddle, quite a bit.
So that hand interesting. You mentioned that Sardine's been limping from the small blind. He limped and faced a big raise from Ryan there with his queens. And Sardine made the laydown, and that will send us to a quick, looks like about a 6-minute break here. Probably just a break for color ups.
If y'all need to use the restroom, grab a snack, now's the time to do it.
Now's the time. Make sure you smash like before you go. Still 500, nearly 550 viewers right now.
Yeah, don't leave us, though. All the big money, $35K in between first and fourth.
Yeah, we'll take a look at those payouts while we're on break. Here it is. Even bigger one, $250,000 guarantee. We crushed that guarantee. $294,000 in this prize pool, just a $300 buy-in. We're now four-handed. Only 4 players remain, guaranteeing $16,930 with $50,000 up top. Let's see here. Also, a couple things we could talk about. The industry night right here at Texas Card House Dallas. That's going on right now. I went out there a little bit earlier, and I saw that they knocked down all the pizza, but they do still have complimentary beer while supplies last, but that'll probably be all night. Discounted memberships. Buy 2, get 2 hours from 5 p.m. to midnight. So that's buy 2 hours, get 2 hours. That special will run till midnight tonight. Industry night has been a lot of fun. There's a 1-1 game going on out there for the ladies, and also a tournament. Bunch of players out there tonight for the bounty tournament, the jackpot bounty tournament, where the jackpot was hit last week. So the jackpot's down just a bit, but they'll get that bad boy. Yeah, they'll get that bad boy rebuilt. I think a winner of the jackpot bounty last week won over $5,000.
Oh, wow.
Just off of
That's a nice hit.
Nice bounty drawing.
And you mentioned the ladies' night. Actually, the table's going on right outside the store right now. Ladies, I know it can be, intimidating if it's your first time playing, but this is a great way to play very cheap with other people that will support you. We want to make this game comfortable for everybody. Learn how to play at a table full of ladies for 1-1. You can make your money work for you, very cheaply. We want to make this game for everybody.
Yeah,
so.
They're playing that game here tonight on Industry Night, which is the Monday nights. But Ladies Night, normally they run that game Thursday night right here. So Thursday night, officially Ladies Night. Tonight they're running it as well on Industry Night. So that may be a thing. That maybe they'll start running that on Mondays and Thursdays.
Nice.
Thursday night, officially Ladies Night, Texas Card House Dallas, where the same specials. 5 p.m. to midnight, you buy 2 hours, you get 2 hours free, complimentary wine for club guests on Thursday nights, which is officially Ladies Night.
Yeah, and that's why, when all of you play out here, some of you have been playing for many years, but remember, some people, it's their first time. Always be nice, welcoming.
Always
Poker's
be
for
nice.
everybody. Try to make it a fun environment, and you want people to want to come back.
That's one of the things
Win or
that
lose.
has been more annoying to me over the years, when people just start griping about a new player.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, that is the one fish thing you can do as a poker player, is make fun of new players. Like, it's very obvious this player is learning. It's very obvious this player is new. Not only do you want them at the table for their lack of expertise, but from a human standpoint, you could have a little common sense and be nice to that person as well.
Absolutely. And we all play for different reasons. Some of you all play for money, but many people, they work really hard in their life. They have families, they have jobs. And so they just want to, relax, have a little bit of fun gambling. And so we want to be supportive of everybody's reasonings to play poker. And that's why it's such a great game for everybody.
Oftentimes I'll find myself in a situation like that. And if it comes to a situation where I feel like I have to say something, I'll just be like, hey, they didn't read the same book you read. and hopefully they catch up on the hint.
Or when's your book coming out?
Yeah. Hopefully they catch up on the hint. I'm like, man, that player's like brand new, dude. Lay off him a little bit.
Yeah, and I try to do the opposite. So if a player is clearly struggling or a little bit nervous, I'm going to go out of my way to help them answer any questions that they might have, or just make them feel more comfortable. And I urge you all to do the same, especially those of you that have a lot of experience at the tables and are very comfortable with the dynamics.
Yeah, don't hit him with the "Why'd you do that, you clown?" That doesn't work that way.
You're actually the clown for saying that.
Absolutely.
Generally, people who do that are also actually bad at poker, and they think they're good at poker.
Right?
So,
Yeah, that's what I was insinuating a while ago on the fish comment.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's check it out from the chat. While we still have about 40 seconds left of this break, while their players are getting colored up. Now's a good time to say where you're from, where you're coming in from. I know you guys might be on break as well.
And speaking of new poker players and experience, how long have all of you been playing poker for? Personally, I've been playing poker almost 20 years now, and so obviously it makes it a lot easier coming into the table. But most people 1, 3 years, 5 years is a lot more common. So how long have you all been playing for?
Yeah, I probably started playing a little more serious in 08-ish for me, and then stepped up the level of seriousness in probably 014.
Okay.
And now I don't know how serious I am, but we're probably 20 years into this thing, and
it goes back and forth.
Still
too.
piddling around, yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like, sometimes you take it a little more seriously and you want to study more. Sometimes you're just playing for fun. Obviously, I started, with friends in college, $5 buy-ins, and kind of took it more seriously from there. But
it's not bad.
There we go. The break is over.
We are back.
The break is over, and people are chiming in now from where they are from. San Antonio, Atlanta.
Mighty Hammer's another local regular around here. Is very strong player. He's been playing 19 years. His wife also plays Sassy. We see her out in the chat a lot. Both great people. Love to have them as part of the community.
Sassy looks like she's 27, so she hasn't been playing that long. Hammer. Let's see. Matt Page, Ryan's cousin. He's tuned in all the way from Florida. TCH Live. We are worldwide, baby. We will go anywhere. Sardine in the cutoff with ace queen now. He's bumping it up.
Mason, I like that. 10, 15 extra of not knowing what I'm doing.
True that.
And blinds are up again. Finally trying to force some action here.
Remember, aces, traces, and jaces all wild.
Ace, jack, 3, Sardine landing the ace of his premium holdings.
Yeah, and this is a spot where opening first to act, this board specifically, you can probably range bet. You could even choose a larger sizing in general, but at this point with ICM at the final table, I do like choosing a small size with my entire range. And again, that's back to that point of indifference, making your opponent's life miserable by giving them a size that they feel stupid for folding and stupid for continuing. So it's like, what am I going to do here? So you really want to make your opponent's life difficult and kind of put them at a point of indifference between folding and calling or raising.
Another ace queen here, this time suited for Ryan. Ryan, a lot of friends and family in the chat here, giving each other a hard time. We love to see that. Aggie Chris here with a suited Jack 10, the same suit for Ryan.
Yeah, Mason, I heard Ryan actually paid a bunch of people out on the street to come into the chat and say nice things about him. So it seemed like he had friends.
Pocket nines here in the big blind for Sardine.
Oh, wow.
Interesting spot.
Yeah, very difficult spot here with a 3-bet before him. Especially there haven't been too many 3-bets, especially in this formation, but very difficult spot here. I could see an all-in or a fold here.
So he's under the gun now. The pot about 2.6 million. He has 6.8 million behind.
Well, so actually, Ryan is the initial opener under the gun, and the button 3 bets. And so that's why Sardine is in such a tough spot there. I do probably prefer the fold in this specific formation, considering how the players have been playing. And then Ryan also has a very interesting spot here, whether or not to call or put in the 4-bet. Ooh, and the money's going to get in here on this flop.
Jack 8-5, 2 hearts.
Yeah. And one of the benefits to Ryan choosing to call with this suited combination of ace-queen is that the hand plays a lot better post-flop, even out of position. And so you're going to keep in some of your opponent's bluffs by just flatting there. So I do like his decision to just call pre-flop.
3 of spades, no help to either player here on the turn.
I'm all in.
Aggie Chris picking up a whole bunch of the equity.
5.4.
Yeah, really tough spot there for Ryan. That flop was to lose the max. But I do think he played it very well. And just a very lucky flop there for Chris to chip back up and
Yeah, with only 1 card to go there,
take back the chip lead.
Hey, tell Aaron.
makes the insta fold and on to the next one.
Yeah, and you can see, you know, Chris was down to 4 million, which was 20 bigs at the time, and he's right back in the chip lead. This is still anybody's game. Everybody's got very healthy chip stack right now, even with the blind increase.
Sardine, the short stack at 6.7 million, 8 for Ryan, about a little over 9 for Chuck, I think. And now Chris back up over 11 million. So not a huge gap between short stack and big stack. They're leveled out pretty good.
Yeah, whenever a short stack double up will make him the chip leader, that's when the risk premiums start to go down, because now there's so much more incentive to doubling up, and anyone can get hurt by getting doubled through. Sean, we'd love for you to come down. We are at Texas Card House in Dallas. We have this multi-flight tournament every single month. Generally, it's around $50,000 for first place, and that's just on a $300 buy-in. We also have weekly versions where first is somewhere usually between $10,000 and $15,000. So plenty of money to be made for very low buy-in amounts.
Texas Card House, Dallas.
You said lock at 36, right?
A lot of the Texas Card House locations holding great tournaments, but this one of the best value bang for your buck at $300.
Yeah, and Bill is questioning whether or not Ryan could have jammed there with the ace-queen, and I definitely think it is very close between a call and a jam.
On the flop, you say?
No, pre-flop.
Pre-flop?
So yeah, I wouldn't mind either option. I think Chris may have been a little deep where it starts to get a little risky, your risk reward to jamming there in case you do run into a big hand. But either play is fine in my opinion there.
Yeah, that's right. I find myself in that spot every now and then with ace queen where you're facing that 3-bet and you're just like, yeah, oh, is it Rip City, or do you want to let ace queen can be in a predicament in that spot?
Yeah, and the other thing is, even though you know, Chris has maybe been a little bit more aggressive in certain spots, he hasn't really been 3-betting very much. And so I think Ryan knows that he's a lot more likely to be towards the top of his range there. And you know, Jack 10 suited was probably one of the worst hands he'd 3-bet there. So, you know, I think there are arguments to be made for both. Let's see, Chris has a little bit more pep in his step now that he's bounced back. So if I was paying attention to this table, based on how tight Chuck has been playing in the blinds, Even if my strategy was normally in this position to limp my entire range, I would start changing that to an exploit of raising 100% of my hands blind versus blind against a player that's going to overfold. And then when he does start to defend or come back, you know that he's going to be pretty strong and up there in his range. So that's like a nice example of how to adjust your play based on how your opponent's maybe deviating from optimal strategy.
A game of observation. It does help.
Absolutely, and that's really what's going to separate the top players at live poker, in my opinion, is understanding player tendencies and dynamics at the specific table. I call them, people call them game flow reads, where you're really in tune to how people are feeling and playing in the moment based on the stage of the tournament.
9-7-4. Pretty friendly flop here for 8s. Ryan able to continue with his 8s, and the bet will take it down.
Yeah. And that board is going to favor the big blind defender a little bit more. So he's not going to have to c-bet as often, but when he does c-bet, he's going to choose a larger sizing. So you noticed before I was mentioning how he was making very small c-bets. I think he correctly realized that he's not going to c-bet as often on this board. So when he did c-bet, he chose a little bit larger of a sizing as his hand needs a little bit more protection. And he's not going to be doing it very often. A good rule of thumb is on a board that you feel like you should be c-betting all the time, you want to choose a smaller size since you're going to be doing it more often with more trash. And when you're not going to be c-betting very often, you want to do it less often, but choose a larger size. And so clearly see Ryan is a very studied player, choosing very good sizes. See if Ryan can find a bluff here. It's always a little dicey to start bluffing on a paired board, as your opponent is not as likely to believe that you've suddenly made a hand. But with the 7 high, that might be an option there, just to throw out a small bet and try to get your opponent to fold his 8 highs, jack highs, his better nothings. But giving up is also fine. He can't win every pot, so does play it straightforward and checks.
All right, just so you guys know, Cooper told me on break that you're all boring and you need to talk more. That's what he said.
All right, now that we're back in action, we got 500 back in the chat. Let's try to beat that top 550 that we had. Remember, hit the like button while you're all here.
Yeah, I think the highest I saw was 555. I remember.
That's right.
So we can do that.
Yep.
10:24 here. We're about 4 hours old here. Coming up on 4 hours old, this final table.
So these are really fun spots. Blind versus blind. Whenever I get a flop like this in a limped pot, blind versus blind, I'm going to stab almost every board for one big blind because people, at least in a tournament like this where people are going to overfold it. So I really like Ryan's stab there. It just so happened that Chris did connect with that board, but he's going to miss it so often that I really like his bet there.
And for one bet, he found out right away.
Exactly, and that's why the sizings are so important. Since he's going to be stabbing a lot there, you want to choose a small size. So it's a very low risk for a large reward.
So under the gun here for Sardine in the cutoff, ace 10. He'll open it up.
5 million.
We've seen some good hands in these cutoff spots.
Ooh, Chris is getting after it. Three betting the deuces. Oh, Sardine. So I think now that Sardine's getting a little bit shorter, that would have been a good hand to turn into a 4-bet jam. We haven't seen any 4-bets really, and Chris has been getting after it probably more than anybody, especially lately. So I wish he would have taken a little bit more time to consider his options there. Four-handed ace-10 starts to go up in value a little bit. But yeah, nice hand by Chris, takes it down. And yeah, if he's, he already saw him 3-bet the Jack-10 suited before. And, now that he's 3-betting a hand like deuces, you want to start fighting back a little bit. And he's already the shortest stack, so he's going to have to gamble before anybody else. And so the ICM pressure is not as heavy on him as it might be on someone like Chuck.
And then the next hand, adding on to the frustration, he gets a walk with ace-king of clubs.
Well, hey, again, though, like, you want to think about it positively. Any pot is a good pot to take down at this point.
Indeed.
So. And you can tell Chris has gotten his swagger back. He's, he's got a little bit better of a posture at the table. He's focused. He's raising a lot of hands again and getting really aggressive.
So here's a fun one. Ace-king staying with the big blind now. Ryan has it.
Yep, I expect a 3-bet here. The only question is what sizing is he going to choose? Just about 27, 28 big blinds to start the hand against the chip leader.
Very similar to...
Yep, does put in about 8 bigs. I really like that sizing. Go anywhere between like 7 or 8 big blinds off of 28. Again, you want to be putting your opponents in difficult spots. And you can see Chris shake his head. He thought about continuing, but thought better of it. Nice hand by both players.
Yeah, right. In the chat, they're talking about leveling up again. We'll show a quick payout here. As we are four-handed. These guys are stuck four-handed here for a hot minute and might continue to do so. So there's what they are playing for. 16,930, the guarantee right now, all the way up to 50,000 up top. So you're looking at some pay jumps of 6,000, 13,000, and 15,000. So these pay jumps getting serious for a $300 buy-in.
Absolutely. Great payday for everyone. And Mighty Hammer, you're absolutely right. If he's going to be folding hands like ace-10 as the short stack to a simple 3-bet, he can definitely start to lean on these guys.
So here we have deuces on the button, raised it up. Kings in the small blind for Ryan.
See what sizing he chooses.
So Ryan finding some premiums here to 3-bet with.
And I like this smaller size here against the button open that has a shorter stack. It's going to put him in a little bit tougher of a spot. Sardine might start to get a little frustrated, feel like he needs to fight back. And with a pair, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a stand here. But I still prefer a fold this deep here. And does make the discipline lay down. Sardine might be getting a little frustrated, but he's still playing really solid poker.
Sardine's still a rock star.
Absolutely.
You gotta deal with it.
Yeah, and it's completely natural to get frustrated when things aren't going right at the table. But what matters is how you react to that frustration, and he is still playing very solid. Sean, this was a multi-day tournament, so they've the day one started, I believe, either like maybe last Tuesday or Wednesday. Wednesday, and then day two was yesterday, and the final table then was played today.
So yeah, several different flights: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Then they'll have the day two on Sunday. And yes, this tournament monthly, usually the last weekend of the month. So.
Yep.
Make sure you click like and subscribe. You can usually stay up to date on when these bad boys are coming in.
Yep. So join us, Sean, next month for your chance to win the 50,000. And even though Chuck has been a little tighter than the average play at the table, One thing I really like about how he's playing is that when he does enter the pot, he has been doing so aggressively, and aggression really wins in poker. And so he has been very tough to play against, a lot of check raises, a lot of aggression. And so I really liked all 4 of these players, how they've approached this final table.
Yeah, you would think he might be leaking off a little bit, but really he's pretty much maintained his stack over there.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's getting them all back in his raises, his 3 bets. And it really still is anybody's game.
All right, we get a raise and just a call here from Chris, so these two will see a flop.
Yeah, a lot of aggressive play, which has caused a lot of pre-flop takedowns, but love to see some flop maneuvering as well. Yeah. Interesting middling board. It's going to favor the pre-flop caller a little bit more, especially on the button. He's going to have a lot of these middling suited connector hands. Can really start putting pressure on his opponents also.
And pressure here, he bets 800,000. Gets the call. 3.3 million in the
Gets there on the river.
You win.
I don't know how much he bet there, but
I
Ryan
think he verbally bet 2 million, and then Ryan verbally called.
So Ryan checked to Chris there. The button bet 2 million on the.
No. And you can just see from this, like they basically swap from first to last, back and forth. So every pot that gets played is so important in terms of your real money value of your stack, called the ICM value. And that's why you just, you really want to understand why you're putting in bets and raises and where you can put your pressure. And just like that, Ryan jumps back into the lead. He's going to be a tough one to beat in this tournament. I think he's my pick to win. Mighty Hammer, actually, I think you're doing it the correct way. If you play for, I don't want to blow up your spot, but I know you play more for a living, or to make real money. And tournaments, even though the glory is there and they're a lot of fun, and I recommend them for recreational players, I think if you're really trying to earn a living in this game, you really want to focus on cash game poker. That's how you pay the bills. I played cash game poker for the first 17 years of my career. Only more recently, when I started to wind down, have I started focusing on tournaments more to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Marty B in the house. Thank you. I forget what those are called though. But
Chat.
Chat.
Donations?
What's the word I'm looking for there? The chat donation from Marty B.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it, Marty. Dupe really needs that $2.01.
Yes.
Can anyone beat it?
Well.
Can anyone do $2.02? Let's get RJ a buy-in here for the next one.
Yeah, Marty, one of the OKC homies.
Nice.
Big shout out to him. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate that, Marty.
The nut no pair takes it down, gets the lead out. Well, if you're not very good at cash, it is.
Well, Learn How to Draw Hub says, I'm definitely wrong. Cash is how you go broke. And you know what? You're probably right. I am wrong about most things I talk about. So, yeah, you can completely ignore that advice if you want. But, I'd like to think I made a career out of this game.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's a little bit more. You asked me earlier which one do I prefer, and just for fun and preference, I would prefer tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
But cash game's pretty much how you pay the bills, so I've been spending a lot of time there in recent years to make sure the inflow keeps coming in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We all have different motivations and reasonings behind why we play this game. So there's no wrong answer. It just depends on what you're looking for. So based on what Mighty Hammer's goals are and what he's been doing, I think cash makes a lot of sense for him.
Had an opportunity to play a few hands of Mighty Hammer last week, I think. Enjoyed it. It was fun.
Did you stack him?
No, didn't stack him. Let's see. I was pretty card dead that night, if I remember. He was able to take advantage of some spots. He chipped up pretty good. I think I made a little lunch money out of a card dead night and called it good. So.
Hey, that's a good day. And yeah, that's another great point, Hammer. Obviously, you want to. The real reason we all play poker is because we love the game, and so you don't want to do something that you don't love. If cash is a grind for you and you have fun playing tournaments, then by all means play tournaments, and vice versa. Tan Man asks about PLO cash, and honestly, it's all the same. So if you're a PLO specialist, absolutely, you can make a living playing PLO cash. It's stick to whatever you have fun and whatever. Oh my gosh, we got the $2.02 donation from Bill. He is crushing Marty with 1 entire cent. Who's got the $2.03 donation?
Boom, they're rolling in now. Marty and Bill, thank you guys.
Let's make Bill look like a broke man. Let's get the $2.03. Who's got it? Learn how to draw hub. What do you like to play? Are you mostly a cash game player then? Do you like to play the 1-2 game, the 2-5, PLO, Hold'em? What do you all prefer to play here in the chat?
Yeah, let's see.
RJ, you can write me a check for $2.01.
Yeah, we got you.
I prefer a check.
Whoever was asking about PLO, I've been playing a lot of PLO since I moved down here, and the swings are a little greater, but man, when it's nice, it is nice.
Yeah, and there's a little bit less information out there on how to play PLO well. So if you're interested in learning, there might be a little bit more edge to be had at the low levels, just because most people play Hold'em at least reasonably well these days. Even the more inexperienced players. So there's an argument to be made for that. But I just have a lot of fun playing Hold'em. I've dabbled in PLO throughout the years, but these days I'm just having so much fun playing tournaments. So that's been my focus lately.
Interesting hand here. Sardine using that limp small blind position to.
And that's the thing, when you do limp your entire range in the small blind, you don't want to just be giving it up. You do need to be limp calling hands like this. In general, you don't want to have a lot of leads into the pre-flop razor, but this kind of board might have been a situation where he can lead, especially against the check back now. I'd like to see Sardine size up here and represent that he hit this board. As a limp caller pre-flop in the small blind, this board is going to be a lot more favorable to his range than to Ryan's. I also, conversely, I really like Ryan's decision not to c-bet here, because Sardine's going to be able to continue so wide, and Ryan is just going to have to give this hand up. And so the hands that you losing the minimum and playing them well is just as important as the hands that you win. So honestly, this is a really great example of one of Ryan's better hands here, by putting on the pressure pre-flop, by raising a hand like King Deuce that does not flop very well, tries to take it down pre, and then when the board does not favor him, he goes ahead and gives up. And so being able to play the hands that you win and the hands that you lose equally well is how you find yourself at these final tables.
I don't know, I understand. I'm just throwing it out
Really
there.
impressed by the play with both of these players so far.
but I mean it's just short of second place money. However you slice it up.
All right, I think they're talking about possible chops
Thank you,
here.
guys.
Yeah, it looks like Chris has mentioned it.
Yeah,
know
and
what
you know
total is.
these players are
I
going to start
came
getting
up
a
with
little
like
bit tired. They've been
126-ish.
grinding a lot, big money that they're playing for.
The
You
way
don't
I
necessarily want to
envision
gamble
this
for it.
is 30 and 30, 33, 33, thereabouts.
So as you listen to what they're saying, here's a look at those payouts again.
That math doesn't
4 players
check out
remain.
because there's only 4 25s in 100.
So if you start getting over 30,000 from a $300
Yeah.
buy-in, that's
Yeah.
pretty juicy
Generally, if you can
spot.
all lock up around second place
saying
money,
you
it's a
two
pretty
got the
good
bigger
deal,
stack.
especially
I
if the
think
stacks
33
are
and
very
33, and then the
close.
two of us take 30.
That's why you generally do it based on the ICM value of
You
your
ought to get paid
stack,
a little for your stack, but again,
because
it's-
really
we
it
all
could
gotta
be
get that
anybody's
stack we can
game.
hurt
And
each
one
other.
unlucky hand, you know, swinging 15, 20, $25,000 in real money.
I don't know, you two flip
You know, a lot of people don't want to gamble for that. The stakes get a lot higher here at the end. So let's see if we can hear some of their discussion.
I'd like to play it out.
Okay,
To be
play it
honest
out.
with
That's
you.
fine.
Oh, there you go.
I
Chuck
said,
just
worst thing
said
that happens
he
to us
wants
is
to
we
play
make
it out.
17
He wants
grand.
to play
It's
for
not
the
so
win.
bad.
Yeah, I know, but I don't mean to be an asshole or anything.
No.
But
No.
No,
It's
and
your
that,
money.
yeah, never feel bad for turning down a deal.
Honestly,
You know,
I'm
we
usually
sign
a
up
big
for these
fan of playing
tournaments
it
to
out.
play them, and
30 grand's
I would be
30
in the same position. I would not chop here. I want to, you know, practice these late game tournament situations. You know, if I make it to the WSOP main event, I'm not going to be able to chop there. So I need as
you want
much
to do a
practice
flip
as I
at
can
the end?
get. So
One in,
I'm at the top
winner
of my
takes trophy.
game when a big spot does come up.
And who knows? You never know. As we lose players throughout the evening, they might change their mind, get more tired or something.
Okay. After.
Absolutely, yeah. Or you know, Chuck might bust then, and then they can
You care
renegotiate afterwards.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I'm down. I'm okay with that. So.
Yeah. Of course, our chat is in favor of no chop, so they're happy. We're going to continue on with play.
What's that?
Is it a nice trophy?
Yeah, it's just a trophy.
Yeah, and Tan Man, another good point. He prefers PLO because there's just more gamblers in general. I definitely noticed that. It lends itself to the more gambling archetype of poker player.
Heck yeah, more cards, more gamble.
Chris decides the flat in position there with the open-ender. I think if he's out of position, he should consider raising more there. It's going to be hard to start turning your hand into a bluff now because the board paired. And so let's see if Ryan can make a good call here. I think this is a spot. The flush draw's missed. He doesn't have any spades in his hand. I think he's going to make this call. You got this, Ryan. This is a tough call, but I think it is correct here. The specific cards that you're holding don't interact with any of your opponent's bluffs. You know, not having any spades in your hand, not having a 9 or a 10 in your hand, your opponent's very unlikely to have an ace based on the action so far with the board paired. So what really can he have? You know, he's basically saying he's got a jack here, and then all of the bluff combinations as well. So
it's one of those hands where you've put him on a draw on the flop, and you really don't want to change your mind with this run out that anything could have connected.
Very nice call. Very nice call. Yeah, and yeah, Ryan's definitely in tune here. He's definitely my pick to win this final table here. But everybody's playing very solid, and it's definitely anyone's game. You can see Chuck's eyes lit up there. He was very impressed with that call.
Right read, run a bit.
Brown says no chop. Play it out.
Yeah, Mighty Hammer in the chat, he brought up that he was playing a 1-2 round of each today. They've been playing a little bit of that on Mondays, especially a 1-2 round of each with an $800 cap, playing some PLO and some Hold'em. That game getting a little bit of street cred out there. People are starting to like it. Who knows? They
Every Monday?
They might get that game up more often if they can really get it going. But at least for now, they're playing it on Mondays, and it's a fun one. It's a good game to play in.
Yeah, I was playing a little bit of a round of each between bomb pots and PLO for about a half hour before I got into the booth here, which was a lot of fun. I also love bomb pots.
Yeah, bomb pots for me have been a love-hate relationship. Big flop here as everybody could see some action here.
Yeah, three very strong hands here, shorthanded. Yeah, with the top pair, Chris versus Chuck here. I do expect a lot of money to get in here.
And Aggie Chris now, he's down to 3.6 million after some of these swings. So might we see something?
Chuck goes for the raise right away, which is interesting. There are a lot of draws out here. He doesn't have any hearts in his hand. I guess I don't mind it. Very large size though. Pretty committing. You want to be careful because Ryan is still uncapped here, betting into the pre-flop aggressor. So I mean, he could still have aces and kings type of hands here. But it just so happens he's going to have to get out of the way now, and now Chris is going to be in a difficult decision for all of his chips.
So Chuck, after making this raise, is peeking over there to that button.
Yeah, I think the graphics are a little bit behind because he's already put out his bet.
Okay.
Yeah,
and the button has folded.
Yeah, I don't expect Chris to fold based on what I've seen so far, but I think he knows that this is not a great spot.
And I think Chuck feels the same way, where he's just making a stand to go after what Chris has left here, right?
Yeah, but the problem is, so he basically put in a raise to put Chris all in. The problem is that the initial pre-flop raiser still has him covered with a lot more chips, so you can't just raise assuming your head's up against Chris. You can put in a small raise, and that way you can get out of the way if Ryan comes back over the top and re-raises. But yeah.
And there we have it. Chuck, Aggie Chris does go all in over the raise of Chuck, and we are going to be heads up and at risk. Aggie Chris at risk, 4 million in there.
Yeah, Chris doesn't really want to have a 10 in his hand here. I think you could probably get away based on how Chuck has been playing so far. But, you know, it's a little frustrating to full top pair shorthanded.
And it runs out 6-6, and Chuck gets the big knockout right there. Aggie Chris eliminated in 4th place.
Good game, Chris. You made a nice comeback, gave yourself a real shot of winning the tournament. You're a class act as always, and we'll definitely be seeing you back here.
Absolutely. Great game for Chris. Fun guy to be around. A lot of fun to see him make this run through 1,254 entries. He finishes in 4th place, $16,930 for his prize. Only 3 players remain, guaranteed 22-9 now.
Yeah, and Chuck, Silent Killer over here, is now a dominating stack along with Ryan. So now that Sardine, I believe, is the short stack, you know, he's going to be a little bit more incentivized to gamble and make his move. That being said, he is still not short in terms of big blind, so plenty of play left. He's got like over 35 bigs, so nobody's really short here. It's still anybody's game.
So we are 3-handed now. Chuck in the 2-seat, Sardine in the 3-seat, and Ryan there in the 5-seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tan, I think a raise can be argued, but I think the big lesson there would be to choose a size that doesn't hurt you in case the player behind you still has a huge hand. You know, you're still going to want to commit yourself against Chris, but you don't need to make it 4 million to do that. You know, that way if Ryan comes in for 12 million over the top, you know, you can get out of the way without bleeding too much. But really well played. You know, everybody is playing very aggressively and giving themselves a really strong chance here. And again, Sardine with the limp call here. I'd like to see him start mixing in some limp raises with some of the bottom of his limping range. You know, I feel like Ryan has noticed him either limp folding or limp calling, so he can start putting in a lot of pressure as the big blind versus small blind limps.
Yeah, and you talked about a little bit about how you want to pay attention to blind on blind. It's amazing to me a lot of times when I'm dealing tournaments or playing in tournaments, the big blind people don't pay attention to what's happening in their big blind. They don't pay attention to the button. They don't pay attention to what the small blind's doing. They act like it's, you know, the first time they ever saw him limp or the first time they ever saw him raise. And I'm like, come on, man.
Yep. This is a game of information. You need to collect it and adjust your reads as the game goes on.
Yeah, it just so happens that Sardine in the small blind has had a lot of like small suited connectors and stuff there. So it's been interesting for him to be able to limp call. But like you said, it'd be nice to see him find something there to open up his range just a bit on the limp raise.
Yeah, part of it, and like you said, those are really good hands to limp call. So I think, he's playing his cards well. So I don't blame him for doing that. But adding a little dynamism to your game can help a lot too, and keep Ryan off of his toes, or on his toes, I should say.
Yeah, because you don't want to limp and let him raise every time, right?
Yeah. Make him think twice about doing it light with the hands like King Deuce off.
Suited ace-6 here for Chuck. He's in the small blind position. Goes with a big, hefty raise here.
Yeah, I think the sizing is a little bit better. Blind versus blind, when you're in the small blind or even the big blind, you can actually size up a little bit, especially at these stack depths. I don't mind making it like 2.8 to 3.2 big blinds there. So I actually really like that sizing.
Yeah, about 2.8 there it looked like.
Yeah. Because again, you are out of position. It helps to give your opponent a little bit worse of a price, as well as lower the stack to pot ratio for when he does continue.
Deuces are out again. Let's see, and the deuce is just flatted here from the button. So now Ryan faces two limpers.
Yeah, I think with the chip lead, Chuck should not be limping anything on the button.
He finds a deuce. Naughty flop here. King, queen, deuce.
I think he would have set himself up to win a much bigger pot here if he raised. Ryan's obviously going to lose at least a bet or two. But being in position here, I don't really think he should be limping on the button.
Now he fires strong here on the turn. Very confident bet there.
Yeah, and Ryan's definitely got a tough spot here. Very strong hand against the button open. He doesn't have any spades in his hand. There's the 10-jack, ace-jack, spade type hand holdings. But I think with this river, he'll probably be able to get away against another large bet. Oh, I think Chuck needs to put in a value bet there. I know it's easy to be afraid of the flush, but I don't think Ryan would play the hand that way if he had a flush draw. And there's just so many other hands. One of the really nice things about bottom set specifically is that you unblock the top pair type holdings, so your opponent's actually more likely to have a king X or a queen X holding. So you can really go for a small value size there and put your opponent in a lot of trouble. I love bottom set. It's so easy to get value. Sometimes top set can be a little tougher just because what can your opponent really have, right?
That's where you start blocking off the top pair with nice kicker that could pay you. Yep. Bottom set, not so much. 3 barrels, let's go.
Yep. Yeah, it'd be a little bit different if this was like a full ring table and all the players, were in different positions. But three-handed, I think you need to try to get at least a little bit of value there on that river.
So blinds up to 150, 300,000 now. So it's 300,000 in the big blind. Big blind ante also of 300,000. So you're spending some cheese as these laps of the button go around three-handed. Player's still pretty deep, though.
Yep. Even Sardine being the short stack has over 20 bigs, so definitely plenty of room to maneuver. And, you know, Chuck has not been leaning too much on them with the big stack, so I think that gives Ryan an opportunity to get in there. But Chuck is picking up a lot of hands, and he is playing them very aggressively and well when he gets in the pot. So he's going to be tough to beat at this point, starting to run away at the chip lead.
Yeah, Mighty Hammer, when 4-bet pots, you're in there with ace-king, and the flop comes queen, jack, 10. That's generally a pretty good spot.
Absolutely, yeah. Whenever you're unblocking all the pairs like that, you definitely don't want to be slow playing because your opponents are just going to have connect with the board a lot. So how you interact with the board and how your opponent's perceived range interacts with the board matters a lot in terms of how much you should be betting and at what frequency. Frequency and size.
850.
Generally knowing when you can get after it,
Yeah.
in other words.
Yeah, because like in a 4-bet pot, your opponent's going to have, you know, a lot of sets of queens, jacks, tens, 2-pair queen, jack, king, queen. So many hands that are very strong and continue. So that's like a classic example right there.
It really compliments to Chuck a while ago when he did go after Chris. You could kind of see that he felt like he was in a spot where he thought he could go after Chris.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Chris showed a little bit of frustration and was, you know, he let out into the pre-flop razor and a multiple opponent. So he's going to likely be very strong there. So he just wanted to get the money in and get it right in there.
Yep. The holdings were pretty much exactly what he expected them to be.
Check out the next page. I mean, not the next page, the next blind level.
All right, they're starting to look up.
This one's easy.
Looking up at that
Yeah.
payout.
Well, now that the chip leader is the one who did not want to chop, we're probably going to end up playing it out.
Yeah, we're at least going to play for a little while here. We're going to have to make these guys tired before they talk about it again. Chuck chipping up quite a bit now. Six, 5, 8. The flop, both players open-ended.
Yeah, these are always interesting boards. Very tough to navigate.
So even in limp pots now, you're starting out automatically. There's 750,000 in the pot before anything happens. So it just takes one limper to juice that pot up pretty good.
Yeah, let's see how Sardine chooses to continue here. He could really go any way.
Open-ended here with a strong king-high kicker.
Yeah, not having a spade is a little bit detrimental, but obviously way too strong to just fold.
So these three players battling it out now. More than 1,200 entries in this tournament. We're down to our final three.
Yeah, really well played. You know, no matter what happens from this point on, all three of these players should be very proud of themselves, turning a $300 buy-in to this, playing
Awesome.
very tough poker.
Absolutely awesome run.
I've been very impressed with the final table play this week.
We didn't get to see the tournament trophy tonight, but there is one.
Ah.
Texas Card House 250K guarantee has a cool little trophy. So we might get to see that later as the stream goes on. Still 516 viewers out there. We appreciate every one of you.
Thanks for joining us on this Monday evening.
Three-handed this tournament, the even bigger one, Texas Card House Dallas.
300. That's right.
Michael Tilton, been with us all night. Thank you so much.
Another really underrated aspect of tournament poker in a spot like this is decision fatigue. And so these players, not only are they playing for really big money, but they started with a lot of people at the table, but they're shorthanded. They have a lot of decisions to make, a lot of high pressured spots, ups and downs, which cause emotional tilt. And so being able to stay focused and aggressive throughout all of that and make good decisions can really help set you apart. I can tell just from being in the booth, commentating, how mentally taxing this is. And these guys are the ones actually making the decisions. We can see all the cards. So it's a lot easier to talk about the hands when you can see your opponent's holdings.
Yeah, and actually executing the decisions through those moments. Way more difficult than sitting out here watching the cards.
Yep. And it kind of looks like Chuck's night. He's just, he's getting there, making a lot of very strong hands.
Yeah, kind of on cruise control right now, stacking some more chips, three-handed.
It's finally pulling away. But again, that being said, if anyone doubles up through him, the spot's reverse. So, nobody should be giving up.
One more quick look at those final three payouts, 22,000, 35,000, and 50,000 up top. So still a bunch to play for these guys, three-handed.
That's a $28,000 difference between first and third. So, it's easy to just be happy with where you've gotten, but this is where the real money is won in tournaments. So whoever can stay strong, pull this one through. Big payoff at the end of the day.
Another shout out to the lovely Brittany in the box. She's been there all night for tonight's final table.
Yeah.
Making the full run.
Yeah, 4 hours straight from Brittany, still pitching those cards perfectly. Again, one of our best dealers out here in TCH Dallas, and that says quite a bit considering how many strong dealers we have.
Sardine, ace king in the small blind.
All right, so here's this example. He's limping his entire range, and that would have been one of those limp raises that I told you about.
Yeah.
So it's actually really nice to see him limp a hand as strong as ace king.
Open-ended here for Ryan, 8-9. He's on the bottom end of that Jack 10 flop.
Gets a little unlucky that Ryan had a hand that he's going to want to check back, but still playing it very well.
Ryan reaching for a raise here. And this is where that limping 100% of your range can get paid off sometimes. Because now he's getting a raise on the flop.
Yeah, definitely in a tough spot considering his exact holding, but he's very strong. He could even consider putting in another raise here, but I'm probably continuing through a call. Way too strong to fold with the overcards. Your hand's and the gut shot to the nuts. Your hand's also very underrepresented, but Ryan's putting him in a difficult spot nonetheless. Let's see what he does here.
I'm slacking on that button. Once again, right on top of it, Sardine will make the call.
Oof.
7 open-ended landed here for Ryan. He now has a straight to the jack.
Yeah, but with another middling card, I do believe that Sardine now can get away on the turn. I love that check back by Ryan. Oh, just a really ugly card for Ryan, though, to get paid on the river. Not what he wanted to see, but I do like his idea. on that rainbow board. Give your opponent, like if it was a deuce, Sardine might turn a lot of hands into bluffs. I think with this specific card, Sardine is probably just going to check fold.
Yeah, now the board is just too ugly for Sardine. He will check.
And I think that takes a lot of discipline. This hand did not work out well. It sometimes feels unfair when you play your ace king in a really tricky way, but it backfires. But it doesn't mean he did anything wrong. If anything, it just shows that mental toughness to be able to follow through. And sometimes you're a slave to the run out, but being able to play well no matter what the run out is what's going to set you apart.
It's funny you bring that up. This is the third time Sardine has played ace king to absolute air and had to get rid of it.
Yep.
So how many players at this final table could have ace king 3 times, go poorly 3 times, and still be here 3-handed?
Exactly. So he's clearly frustrated, but he should be also proud of himself at the end of the day for playing it to perfection. I probably would have played ace king exactly the same way there.
Just breaking the silence for a second. All right.
Been playing for just over 4 hours here at this final table. Just under 4 hours.
Yes, we have made it to 4 hours officially now for these players. We're on a 30-minute delay tonight as you and I watch the stream, so that's a little bit different to our usual 15-minute delay, but that's good news for these players as they're playing for $50,000 up top, no problem. We'll wait a few extra minutes, give them a couple minutes so that they don't run into the forced clock scenario. So a lot of people don't understand the stream situation there. We're on a delay so that to make sure the ethical part of the stream holds pure and true. And if they should run into the part where the hand they're holding comes on the stream, they would then be forced to call clock and make them make a decision.
I've only seen that maybe once or twice. Another nice thing about Texas poker, everybody plays pretty quick out here.
Yeah, tonight now on a 30-minute delay, so hopefully we'll avoid all those situations and never have to call forced clock with a 30-minute delay as opposed to the 15-minute delay that we've ran in the past.
Yeah, I think I've seen it once on the Wednesday stream where somebody was tanking.
I think
about
I've seen
10
it
minutes.
once or twice. Chuck on the button with 2 letters. Oh, and he lets him go. Queen Jack in the muck. Just decides to let the blinds battle it out here. Sardine with a limp. He'll see a flop.
Wait, he folded Queen Jack?
Queen Jack in the muck on the button.
Yeah, it might be getting a little bit tired, or it's possible the card reader was a little bit off.
Occasionally that will happen in the 2C.
Yeah, but as the chip leader, that is a super premium on the button.
Especially with the shorty behind you that's been limping all day.
Yeah.
You basically gave Sardine an opportunity to see a flop here for half a bet when you could have put some pressure on him.
Yeah, might be getting a little bit tired. But when he does enter the pot, he's been doing it well. But it'd be really surprising to me if that hand was not misread.
So big turn here for Ryan's hand. Picks up the gut shot to a straight flush. Sardine still with the most of it though. He's got a pair.
Yeah, Tan, it's possible. Sometimes how the hands get read, let's say if Sardine's card went over the other reader on the way over there, it's possible that maybe like he had Jack 7 and then Sardine has like Queen 10. So those types of misreads do happen.
Yeah, and occasionally the 2-seat is
Yeah.
most notorious for throwing a
Yeah,
curveball.
or like the 1 seat, because the cards go right over there. So, but either way, still a very interesting spot now between these two. Very tough spot for Sardine here.
Yeah, a lot of 9 holdings just took the lead on him.
It's also possible. I mean, you can see Chuck got up to stretch now. Maybe he's just getting a little bit tired. It wouldn't surprise me if he changes his mind on like a chop or something along those lines. These final tables get really exhausting.
Starting to show some exhaustion tails, you say.
Some standard fatigue here. That's why I'm really trying to focus on my fitness and eating well going into the summer for the WSOP. I think it makes such a difference at the end of these long days. Being able to make good decisions in that last level. A lot of people start punting, and I think that's going to set you apart from your competition.
Man, it's such a good feeling. You get 4 and 5 handed, and your brain is still working sharp.
Absolutely.
And then you feel like you have just the sharp advantage over everybody at the table.
Yeah, and that's why there's a reason why the WSOP main event, it's like over a week long of 12-hour days every day. There's a reason why most of the participants at the end are younger, because it's just so hard to keep your stamina up.
Yeah, especially in these new formats where it's just day after day after day after day.
Yeah.
Sardine rips it with pocket 4s. He'll pick up some blinds and antes.
Yeah, Sardine is finally starting to get a little short, but still, over 17 big, so nothing too crazy here. Still anyone's game. But there is a clear separation between first, second, and third now. And I can hear this, ladies' night game outside the door. They are having a blast. So any of you ladies want to come, try your hand in poker. Everyone will treat you with a warm welcome.
Yeah,
so I
love seeing that game up tonight. Because, ladies' night officially is Thursday night. But tonight, industry night, they're not ashamed to break out the ladies' night game. So that's cool.
Yep, we've got a lot of dealers, waitresses in the game, so come say hi to our favorite TCH employees.
So the button already back to the 2 seat. Where last button in the 2 seat, we saw the Queen Jack, possibly a misread, was folded. So it seems like that was just like 30 seconds ago, but button's already back. It moves fast 3-handed. Chuck definitely looking up at that screen, stretching out his hands. Here we have Sardine limping again against Kings this time from Ryan.
He's got to feel so unlucky with his timing. Like, he finally had the ace-king going for the limp raise, and it's like the one time Ryan checks back. But Ryan's just his timing has been immaculate with pouncing on Sardine's small blind flats. And this is a tough spot now. And I think at this depth, you can actually start, consider open jamming from the small blind. He's got about 13, 14 bigs now. So
you're
starting to get
like
in that danger zone.
What type of hands will you be looking for at 10 to 13x suited kings?
Yeah, I mean, even wider. You can do pretty much any of the Broadway hands, all pocket pairs. Hands like Jack 9 suited.
This time picking up queens. That's definitely in range.
Oh, absolutely. I think you could still probably also go with the 2x open here. Let's see if he decides to go for the jam or the open. I prefer an open.
There we go. Open it is.
I would like 600 here. 650 is fine. Yeah, especially with Chuck, who's going to be playing really tight from the big blind. You want to try to get action here. And you can see all the players are getting a little tired right now. They're wiggling around, stretching it out.
Starting to squirm a little bit.
I don't know about you, but I'm craving some ice cream. When I get home,
Ice cream.
I'm gonna eat some Ben and Jerry's.
Nice.
Talking about being all healthy. Is that BJ, our local super pro?
Shout out to Danny from BJ. Thank you so much.
BJ is another one of the regulars here who I've been playing since literally this place opened. Actually, I was talking about the tag team event at the WSOP. BJ was my teammate one year, the 1 year that I played it. So
There we go.
really, really strong player. Very good at both PLO and tournaments. I've learned a lot from him myself. So great guy, great player.
Well, I agree with BJ. Shout out to Daniel indeed for doing some work today. And folks, still more than 500 viewers watching and listening tonight. And if you get an opportunity to listen to this guy, Mr. Danny Marks, you definitely want to listen. These tips are indeed real gold.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. It's been a lot of fun here tonight. I'm learning myself. Definitely helps to be able to verbalize your strategy. Helps me improve my game, and I'm learning along the way too. So I appreciate your all patience with me, and RJ's been great helping me out. But enough of that. Let's see these guys battle for 50,000 up top.
Pair of three still in the lead here. Queen 4-6, 2 diamonds, only 1 club here for Sardine. He'll be able to continue with his range.
Yeah, and I'm a little unsure about Ryan's pre-flop play here with the pocket threes against a very small stack opening. I almost feel like, if he was in the big blind, you could probably just 3-bet all in against him, but you also do have to be careful against Chuck having a big stack behind, so he could do maybe a small raise or just get out of the way. Threes is not going to flop very well. It's going to be very difficult to play post-flop. And so let's see how he navigates on this very interesting turn card.
For Sardine. Big turn, and I think he just ripped it all in.
Yeah.
Open-ended with the flush draw there on the turn.
Yeah, and that's a good example. I mean, technically he had the best hand, but he's just not going to be able to realize his equity with pocket threes against a 14 big blind stack out of position, which is why, you want to be able to get the money in pre-flop when you're going to play it. But with a player behind in Chuck that has a big stack, that's not a great proposition either. So very difficult spot.
If anyone
Well
watching
played
this
by both
thinks I act
players.
too slowly, I'll have you know I only act this slow at a final table, 3-handed.
And
Instant action.
Sardine's joking about playing slow, but honestly, you have not been playing slow. I think it's very appropriate considering the amount of money you're all playing for. I think the play has been very, very appropriate. I think that's the good way to say it.
Yeah, it's been a nice pace tonight.
I mean, it makes sense. You need to be able to think through your decisions. Sassy, it's Mighty Hammer's better half. Welcome to the table.
Back to base. Hello, Sassy. All right, at ace-3 for Sardine here. Continues to limp with the small blind.
Sassy, I believe Carol got 5th, maybe 6th.
Yeah, she was in that range. I think it was a 5th.
5th or 6th. I think 5th. She got like 12K. Yeah, BJ, but the problem is he's in. So BJ says getting a pair 3-handed isn't easy. I like the shove pre. The issue is he's actually was in the small blind. So Chuck, it would have been a very large effective stack raise, which is why I wouldn't mind maybe a small re-raise to be committing against the preflop opener, but allow yourself to get out if Chuck does wake up with a hand and puts in a 4-bet.
Yeah, those small blinds in the small, or those small pairs in the small blind often can be tricky. And
it would have been a 40 big blind effective jam there. So I think that's a little too big. It'd be an ICM suicide play. if Chuck does wake up with a hand. So that's why I'm almost leaning towards fold, but I think a raise is fine as well. It's an interesting spot. I'll have to look that one up later.
I like the range of 2.8, 3x in that spot, I think.
Yeah, and that way, like if you do go for the raise, that's probably something small. It doesn't have to be very large against a 14 big blind open stack to commit yourself, but allow yourself to get out of the way for when Chuck does wake up with it.
Big river here for Sardine, and he checks it to Ryan.
Yeah, and I think with all the draws missing, Ryan's gonna have a hard time not paying this one off. Oh wait, so never mind. Ryan is the one who bet. See, I'm getting tired too.
Yeah, Sardine has checked his trips to Ryan, and Ryan bets out.
Yeah, so he's definitely going to want to go for a raise for value here. Curious to see what sizing he goes for. All in might be a little large, but I think that's fine as well. Representing all the missed draws. Spades missed. All the straight draws missed. And Ryan doesn't have any 8, 9, Queen, King, or spade in his hand, so he might be able to hero it. But does make the good fold.
There you go. So he gets the smash and the fold. Takes down another nice one. Sassy asks, how are you guys tonight? Feel free to visit with Sassy in the chat. Danny and myself, RJ Dupree, we're doing great.
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
All right, here's a little better pair for Ryan. This time in the small blind, he's got sevens. No limp from the button, so he's able to raise it up for sure.
All right, now that we're about even, no insults or anything. Could offer the gentleman a trophy. If he wants a trophy, come up with some sort of deal.
So here we go. We are now bringing up the idea of a deal. We'll let you guys listen to the chat here.
The numbers look like 86 plus 23, so that would be 89, 119. Remain. 119 would be about 40 each. But of course, we could offer the biggest stack.
I love listening to their negotiating skills.
Extra little incentive.
Sounds like Sardine's leading the way here.
Trying to throw in something for Chuck to. Looks like they're pausing play to discuss it.
Yeah, roughly 108. 108.
Yeah, see, I'm not good with numbers.
Swig and Smoke talking about removing the big blind ante heads up. I think that's a great idea, and I actually would prefer them to remove it even earlier and maybe do a small blind ante for short-handed. It drastically changes the play, especially heads up.
That's a lot of heat on that big blind spot.
It just adds an extra advantage to the large stack.
Okay, so they are allowed to get their phone out to look at some math scenarios.
Do some ICM calculations.
So there's the final three. Look at 85 plus 23. So you're looking at definitely in the neighborhood of 110-ish, I believe, yeah.
Total, and then
Yeah, 105 to 110 is left to play for. That is a lot of money for 3 people to split up. That is a good day's work.
Good day's work. $300 to enter this tournament. Now they're talking about
yearly salary
how
for some
you can
people.
chop up 105,000 three-handed.
Arlington. Please ask where I was from.
oh.
Is that going to affect the chop where you're from?
Chop it up, he gets a trophy.
I'm down with that.
I mean, maybe a couple of grand extra for this.
I'll give you $2 grand extra.
Sounds good to me, man.
There we go. That's it.
Book it.
He gets 2 more than us.
Oh my gosh. That is a really good deal for the small stacks.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets the trophy.
There you go. Everybody's going to
All
agree
right.
to that.
Congratulations, Chuck, our champion here.
Chuck's going to get the trophy.
Little
And
surprised he made the deal, considering he was the one who didn't want to do it at first, and he's got such a commanding chip lead. But at the end of the day, 37,000 is a ton of money, along with the trophy.
yeah, so it looks like Chuck will get the trophy. First place prize of $37,580. Second and third place go to Sardine and Ryan. Their prizes are going to be $35,585. So definitely a awesome run for those guys. Big payouts. All 3 players more than $35,000. That is greater than second place money. So they will take it. Chuck takes home $37,500, $35,500 for Sardine and Ryan. So that'll do it for today's final table. That is it for this episode of TCH Live.
Thank you all so much for joining us.
Danny, you're on. Say hi to your parents. This is the legend, Danny Marks. We are out of here. Thank you so much, Danny, partner. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Sorry we didn't have Bluey this week. You know, my girl's watching her, but hopefully we'll have her on in the future. So
that's right. And we'll see you again next week. So we'll have another